What is up, everybody? How you doing? What's up, Michael? How you doing?
Good, Gabe. How you doing? What's up, everybody? Welcome back for a great Saturday night.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. We have a really fun show for you guys tonight. Obviously, we're going to be talking droids and droid building and just my favorite thing, honestly. I love the droids.
Yeah, it's great. It's going to be a good time. Finally, everybody's schedules lined up, and we were able to get them. These two cats are busy all the time building.
Yeah. Well, let's say hi to some of our friends that are on here.
Yes, absolutely.
We bring on our guests. Stop yelling. No. There's going to be plenty of yelling tonight.
Oh, yeah, some crazy stuff.
Dan, what's up, Dan? How you doing? Zombie Hunter, what's up? Michael, how you doing? Sean, it was 81. I know, right? From Texas. You're not used to it. You're from San Diego.
Yeah, I missed him, too. It'd been good to see him. Yeah, it was pretty crazy yesterday.
Yeah. Janine, what's up?
Hey,
Brad, what's up, Brad? Welcome, guys. Welcome back. Stolen from Gordon.
Yeah, that's funny.
Sean, what's up, Sean? How you doing, man? Scotty. Matt, what's up, Matt? Far from Death Star, how you doing? Kelvin, Droid Army, that's right. Trent, what's up, Trent? How you doing? Darth Kenobi, what's up? Lee, chiming in all the way from Japan. What's up, Lee?
That's awesome.
I know, right? Star Wars Addict 88, what's up?
Hey, Jeff.
And then, of course, Pete. What's up, Pete? Taking orders for a 3PO. Yeah. Well, cool, guys. So as, you know, some of our buddies are rolling in, like I said, we have a great show for you guys today. Today, our guests are Michael McMaster and Gordon Tarpley. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. And if you guys are into the Star Wars and Star Wars collecting and just in general, the building community, you're obviously going to know who these two guys are.
That's for sure.
I think without further ado, let's bring them on.
Let's do so.
Yeah. Michael, what's up? Gordon, how you doing? There you go.
What
Whoa.
the hell was that?
That was not me.
I don't know.
Thought it was
What's
that
up,
guy for a minute there.
Yeah,
It was probably that guy.
that was awesome.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. You know, we're really excited to have you on. Obviously, we're big fans. We love the droids. We love Star Wars. So what better two people to talk Star Wars with than you guys?
Yeah, for sure.
So just really quick, guys. Usually when, you know, we have our guests on here, we like to start kind of just asking our guests, kind of just tell us your Star Wars story, right? Like how, you know, growing up, what got you into Star Wars? Kind of what led you down this path? Yeah. Whoever. Gordon,
Michael, go first.
Michael, go
Oh
first.
man. Well, you know, I was 11 years old. Saw Star Wars in the theater. I'm that old. That's right. And was just absolutely blown away. And I was already interested in robots. I was watching in the afternoon. They'd have reruns of Lost in Space. So I loved the B9 robot. I had seen the movie Forbidden Planet when I was about 10 and fell in love with Robbie the robot. So I was already kind of preloaded with, you know, robot interest. And then Star Wars just took it to a next level. So after the movie, the whole summer of 1977, I was making cardboard R2D2s and
That's
you know,
awesome.
taking you know, trash bags and things and trying to make, you know, gunk droids and stuff. And yeah, it just kind of took off from there.
Awesome. So Michael, just before we get to Gordon really quick, were you into the toys? Like, were you, you know, collecting some of that vintage?
I loved all of it. I had, I made the 3D. I made the plastic model kits. So I had the old, you know, the model kit of R2D2 and 3PO. And we even had, my cousin had an 8mm camera that could shoot a frame at a time.
Awesome.
So we would do animations, which I've got to see if I can dig those up. We did, you know, stop motion with R2 and 3PO in my backyard, you know, chasing the dog and lighting things on fire. And we were blowing up X-Wing models and the whole bit.
Man,
It was crazy. Good
Talk
times.
about nostalgia. If you could find that video, that'd be awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I've got to talk to my cousin and see if we can dig that out. It's got to be around somewhere. So
That'd be cool.
Right.
that was my first droid experience.
Droid experience. And what about you, Gordon? What kind of got you into just
Well, I also was old enough to see them in the theater when they came out, but I was only
You're an
about
embryo.
a year and a half old. So, but my parents, apparently, is the first movie they took me to. And my mom's like, it corrupted your brain. And I was obsessed with it ever since. So the toys didn't come out till like a year later. I think when I was about two and a half. And I remember clearly getting my first Star Wars toy at Sears in Miami, Florida. They used to have the toy department. It was like a little setback section separate from the rest of the store. It felt like a little toy store, and they had an end cap, and they had the first 12 figures were just right there. And I got a Darth Vader. It was like the very first figure I ever got. And
That's awesome.
Like 2.5 years old. And I was just hooked ever since. So yeah, like my mom said, it messed up my brain. Cause I mean, look at all this stuff. So, you guys understand.
And I just realized when you said that it was 1978, the summer of 78, when I was doing all that stuff, because toys didn't exist in 77.
Yeah. So
that's right.
they came out like about a year after. And, it was, I was like obsessive, like, and I still have almost every single toy from when I was a kid.
That's
from
awesome.
like all of them. My mom just never threw them out, so they're just all over the place.
Yeah, so you're one of the lucky ones, because we have a lot of guests that come on here, and funny that you say that, because we usually ask them like, what's your most valuable possession, like what, and usually people go back to those original figures. They're like, I love those toys. So.
Oh my gosh, I get like such a weird feeling just holding them. Like I have a bunch here, and then there's a ton of them in Florida at my parents' house. And I don't know if anybody who's followed me, anytime I've gone on a trip for like, I don't know, 12 or 15 years, I've brought my little R2 and 3PO with me everywhere. And those aren't my first ones. I got those probably when I was like 8, maybe, like probably like Empire era. But I had previous ones, but the 3PO was so worn out. There's something about the 3PO and like the RE7 that they wore out faster and the arms got floppy, and the other figures would hold up. And those guys just like, I would have to place them so careful, and 3PO just like flop over at his hips.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, stop. And he'd knock over my other figures and make me all angry. But it was,
That's good memories, Gordon. That's good memories.
And that's so true. I bet every single person watching this that played with those like totally understands.
It was those specific figures too. The other ones were fine. I've got some to this day, like you could still pose them great and ever, but all those ones that were vac metalized were just did something to the plastic and made them crappy.
Sometimes
Hey, Gordon,
Gordon's arms get kind of floppy too. It's really weird.
Hey, Gordon, is CZ wearing underwear right now? I mean,
He is.
It looks kind of like it.
What's funny, so the CZ's in progress right now. So
yeah, for sure.
He's like 75% done as a wearable costume, and it's all like super accurate. But the shorts are cast in this like flexible urethane that just happens to be white, and I haven't painted them yet. So they're just there, and then the legs are still unpainted, but it looks like he's got some Fruit of the Looms. I should put a Fruit of the Loom logo on the front of him, paint like a little waistband along him.
No.
And then
I had to say something.
like Hanes.
There it is.
Hanes.
I knew it wouldn't take long before your underwear appeared.
Yeah, okay.
That's a new record. 7 minutes.
Hey, so to everybody in the chat, we were warned by McMaster that there is a good possibility that Gordon's going to be naked halfway through the show.
Try to control myself, guys.
Oh man.
Oh, well, guys,
is that a beer you're drinking, Gordon? I just want to
It
know.
is not. It's
Okay.
Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
So really quick, kind of what got you guys into the industry? Michael, obviously you're kind of known for building these droids, R2, I mean, Wally, all these. What led you to that, and what got you?
Well, so in let's say it was December of 2001, I wanted to build an R2D2 for my kids. I don't know what. There was a toy that we bought the kids, a little remote control toy, and I thought, wow, I took it apart. I said, it's real simple. I could scale it up full size, and I wonder if there are plans. So I do a search on the internet. I find the R2D2 Builders Club. Back in those days, it was a Yahoo group founded in 1999 by an Australian named Dave Everett. And I started building. And by 2004, ish, I had an R2D2 that I kind of cobbled together from builder parts that were available. I made styrene skins, made my own wood frame. It was not entirely accurate, but I was happy that I was just building an R2. And then in 2005, I was introduced to a woman named Mary Franklin, who is head of fan relations at Lucasfilm. And they needed R2D2s for appearances for some of their licensees. So in, I want to say it was May of 2005, I started doing appearances for them. And then that just started this relationship with Mary. And then we fast forward to the end of 2012, or I guess it was 2013, really, when we had a conversation about building a droid from scratch. There was going to be a new animated series. A guy named Dave Filoni wanted to do this thing called Rebels, and it was going to have a droid in it named Chopper. And he basically, what he said was, I want to have the first one before the R2 builders get wind of it and they make 100. And so I got pulled into that and built Chopper and operated Chopper. We traveled all over the world and made appearances promoting Rebels. So then I was in at Lucasfilm. And then, of course, at the same time as when the Disney purchase had happened, Disney comes and said, you know, we need droids for the theme parks. And Lucasfilm said, oh, we got a guy. And so I apparently was the guy, and I didn't even know it. And so I got pulled in that way, kind of sideways. And then from there, production and stuff came later. So.
Oh, that's great. So obviously the Galaxy's Edge stuff, a lot of those droids that we see there, you've had your hands in?
No, zero for Galaxy's Edge. So
Zero?
Galaxy's Edge, I can't really talk about it much, but it was another company that had a contract to build all of those.
Got it.
I was building stage droids, remote controlled stage droids. Is about all I can say. I can't really say specifically what I built, but if you saw a droid on a stage in a Disney theme park in Orlando or Shanghai or Hong Kong or Japan or on the cruise line, it might have been mine.
Got it. Yeah.
Maybe.
You're not a lawyer, are you?
I actually am. But no, thank you. So yeah, and obviously we're going to show some cool pictures right now. And Gordon, how did you kind of get into the industry? And
oh God, same thing, completely sideways. As I was growing up, this is actually something that I really wanted to do. But about the time I was graduating high school is kind of around the time Jurassic Park was coming out, and there was all this talk about practical. They're not going to do anything practical anymore. It's going to be all this digital stuff. And at the time, learning the digital side was going to be way out of my budget for going to school for that and all that. Let me back up a little bit. My dad worked for a company called Pratt & Whitney. They built aircraft engines, and he was in their media department. And they would do videos for all kinds of stuff. And if they ever needed anything that was a special effect, like a plane flying through the air, all kinds of stuff, like missiles being launched, things like this, he would have to build them as practical models. So he was getting Cinefex magazine all the way back in like 1981. Like we have every issue of Cinefex magazine through like the mid 90s, from like 81 to 97 or something crazy. And I grew up looking at these things with movie stuff and watching my dad build like scale models and all this stuff. So I had a lot of like influence in that regard. My grandfather also built things. Everybody in my family does art and stuff. So I was always around creative people. But when my idea of coming in and working in the movie industry and building models and stuff kind of went out the window when Jurassic Park came out, and they're like, oh, it's going to be digital. Everything's digital now. There's not going to be any more models, which at the time I was like, bought into that, played in a band. So I was like, I'll just go do band stuff. And then years later, I got into doing architecture rendering. So I did all this 3D work, and it turned out that my 3D skills actually worked really well with my building skills, because now I could translate things, and I could already build stuff by hand, but being able to make a model, and then even before 3D printing, I could make plans off of it and just realize it, kind of look at it and then build it that way. Ended up kind of like pushing me back into this area that I didn't think I was going to be in. So now I'm like, that's all I do is make stuff for people, and just either products or props. And now I do a lot of performer work as well, but it's really super random. That was like the shortest version I could give without going into the weeds for 2 hours. So
yeah, no worries. Yeah, and obviously, we're collection wars, right? A lot of our viewers are collectors.
Yep.
So we're very familiar with Regal Robot and, a lot of their projects that, you've been associated with.
Look. Yeah.
Right?
I see those two guys right up there.
Yeah. So so we're very familiar with obviously with your work with that side of it. So I'm sure we all appreciate it. Actually, and we could see a little taste of it. Yeah, right there.
This is one of the the prints that we did before, because you see it's a different paint scheme and stuff, and the tail's all wonky.
Yeah.
It's this was one that we were in the process of working on this back and forth. There's tons and tons of back and forth on this project. And Tom Spina, who owns Regal Robot, got a shirt. Look at that. He's in New York, and I had been to his studio many times to work on stuff, but I'm in California, so working back and forth, we got this model where it was looking really good on screen, and I was like, okay, let's each print one, because we can hold it in our hands and circle everything that's wrong with it and look at it, figure out what we need to change. So that was Tom's got one just like it, but I painted mine because I was like, oh, I'm gonna paint it. His is just printed, and we have a bunch of Sharpie marks all over it. Like, this sucks, and this needs to be deeper, and it's missing a detail here. And like, what is this thing? A lot of that, but yeah, it's fun. Those projects are detailed, man. They got a keen eye. So.
Well, no, man, that's cool. Well, and then I guess now that we know kind of your guys both, intros into the industry, how did you guys meet? Like, how did you guys become friends?
Ooh. So I would say we kind of I think we had like brief interactions on the R2 builder group, because I knew of you, and then we met in person the first time in 2012 at Star Wars Celebration.
And your name was on the 3PO Builders Board.
Yeah.
I saw your name a lot on that. Yeah. Because I was doing the suit. I had just done a suit.
And we met in person in 2012, and I remember it was like, oh, that's you, like kind of thing. And then
that.
Yeah, and then like probably less than a year later, we ended up working on a thing together out here in California. I was still living in Florida, but a friend of ours flew me out to be 3PO for this like spoof right when Disney bought Lucasfilm, and they were doing kind of like what Disney would do with these Lucasfilm things, and McMaster had his Wally in an R2. And they flew me out from Florida, and we all met in the desert to film this thing, and we just clicked right away. So it was awesome.
It was like we had known each other forever. It was really funny. We have a lot of the same ideas, and I kind of test the waters sometimes with my humor. And Gordon I'd say some dumb thing, and Gordon would chuckle. I'm like, okay, we're going to be fine. And then he would do the same, and I'd be laughing, and everybody else would be like horrified, and we're just giggling. And so,
I look at the photos from that day, and it looks just like every other photo ever since that we've taken together. We just like fully like, let's go explore these rocks. Oh my gosh, are there rattlesnakes in these holes? Like, let's go
catch one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's look at some of these.
Uh-oh.
Hey, I know those guys.
Yeah, there you are with the.
We built every one of those droids.
That's
I'm joking. That's
right.
Star Wars Celebration 2015.
But what you guys did work on, right? You worked on the Sandcrawler, right? For that.
Yeah.
I was there.
That is the biggest thing we've ever built. It was 12 feet tall, 36 feet across, and it was a 1-to-1 scale tread, which started out, I will say this really quick, it started out as a photo op. They said, we want a section of Sandcrawler as a photo op. And so I built this thing that was like 8 feet wide, 12 feet tall. And then Gordon would be like, well, I bet we could go all the way out to one end and have the curved piece. I'm like, yeah, I would really like to do that. Next thing I know, well, we built half of it. I bet we could build the whole thing. And it's that crazy banter. Anybody else would say, no, don't do that. And Gordon's always like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, why? Why did we do that? But there it was.
Over enthusiastic.
Yeah, it looked really cool with the land speeder in the front of it.
Oh, man. When they
and all the
had it.
droids.
Oh,
Of course.
that.
Of course.
That's right.
We had all the droids from the original auction scene that were laid out. Other people building those, and it was amazing.
That's really, it was awesome.
Oh, so this is at LAX. This was the day after I got to drive the real R2D2, which is to my right, at the red carpet event. It was the largest red carpet premiere in Hollywood history. It took up about 2.5, 3 blocks. And this was the day after. So we brought the droids out. They did a photograph with the entire cast. So all the cast members were out there with the droids. Obviously, we weren't in the photo, but it was an amazing day because everybody was there. And we got to take this neat photo and hung out with the whole cast, who they're all lovely people. And it was a blast.
And I was actually looking right now. I'm looking through your guys' accounts to see if I could find it. I was gonna find a picture of you. You guys were featured in, or I mean, there's on Robot Chicken, right? Didn't they make little figurines of you guys?
Yeah, I had that around here. You want to get? You have yours, McMaster? I'll go grab mine.
Get them.
Yeah, so we're always talking about Robot Chicken and how funny it is.
Yeah,
these guys were in Robot Chicken. They have their own. Yeah, there you go. Let me blow this up.
Let's see if I can do this right.
I got you.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, so when they did that, they gave you the dolls?
Yeah, they're action figures.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Did I say
now?
Did I say? What did I say? Doll?
Dolls. Come on, Michael.
Good job, Michael. Good job.
Something else I should mention just really quick in this photograph that you have up. To my left is Matt Denton and Joshua Lee. They were with the Creature Effects team, and they were the ones that made BB-8 actually work in the real world. That's the red carpet BB-8. That was not a rod puppet. There wasn't no such thing in the movie, obviously. It was a rod puppet, or it had a rig around it. And they spent 18 months after the film had wrapped to develop this. Nights and weekends, it was a stealth project.
Yeah, that was crazy with that thing.
They made that work, and it is magic.
That's to this day, there's still been nothing out there that blows my mind than the way that droid is, how it works.
Yeah,
that's the Saturn Awards from this last year.
Oh yeah, I know those guys. There it is.
Oh look, I was looking for Chopper too earlier. That's why I wanted to bring that one up too. There's that's the Chopper.
That's actually
William Miyamoto, who's in the front and center. He built that particular chopper.
That's his chopper. Okay.
That is a fan built replica. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautifully done. Beautiful. And William has also been in Star Wars. You saw William. Really? That was in the Mandalorian, or was it?
Yeah, Mandalorian. I don't remember. When it's Din comes into that table, and there's all those poker players, and he's like right there. He's on screen for like 30 seconds. It's awesome.
As the camera goes around, he never leaves the frame. He's right. It's
amazing, and he's not wearing he's wearing a costume, but it's like his face. He's not in a mask or anything. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
He now has autograph signing at the art.
Yeah.
Well, look him up. Look up William Miyamoto.
Yeah, I think what is his Miyamoto Productions or something on Instagram?
Yep.
Yeah,
there we are.
No.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, yeah, I'm blowing out. I need too much light.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, here, let me.
Those are beautiful dolls.
You know what? I gotta go.
Man, those are awesome. That's something really cool to have.
And that's Mike Senna, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about these were the very last ones that were done. They took photographs of us. They photographed all the way around. And they had a gentleman who worked for Stupid Buddy who actually sculpted these by hand.
Wow.
Yeah.
These were the very last ones done by hand. After ours were made, they would 3D scan and print them.
Makes sense.
So did they just do a one-off on those action figures or no?
Yeah. Well,
wow.
So on this show, they just used the heads because the heads come off. And what's really neat about these is they look like little action figures, right?
Yeah.
The whole body is silicone, so these joints are actually cast into a mold. So it's a wire that goes through the arm, but the joints are not functioning joints. They're just kind of in the mold, so you can pose them.
Those
and
are
the hands are
badass.
3D. The hands are 3D printed.
Wow.
And at Stupid Buddy, they will do different hand poses, and they print like a massive, hundreds of them at a time. Like on this thing, there's all these different poses, and so little hands could be removed and fixed. We only got one set of hands, as far as I only got one set. Maybe everybody else got different ones, but this was
Those are awesome.
See, I always wondered that with like Robot Chicken. I was like, I always thought they used like the Migos. Remember those like from the 70s? Like the,
yeah. Well, I think that's what they're
right.
based on. I think the body is like they took one and molded it and then just
Right.
recast it with silicone so they could really pose them and do silly stuff with them, you know?
yeah.
Wouldn't be limited to the actual joints because all the joints and stuff were actually cast in here. Let me see if I can pull up my
And-
pants.
So real quick, what was the cameo like? What was the cameo with you guys? What was it? What were y'all playing in there?
That's it at the bottom of the picture there. It's basically Jason Voorhees is getting sued by his mom over the rights to the money, and so he has to go work at a Japanese steakhouse, and so it's just like a
'cause
real
his mom
quick
wins
thing.
wins the lawsuit, right?
Yeah.
And I just love it because my favorite character in Robot Chicken, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I used to always tell him all the Jason Voorhees stuff, literally my favorite. And they didn't tell us what it was. They just said, come down. We're going to pre-screen your episode, your scene. And so we're in there and they were just staring at me. And of course, when I realized I didn't realize when they showed Jason Voorhees, I thought it was something else. So we're watching and watching. And then it cuts to this shot where the camera pulls back and we're in it. And I literally squealed like a little girl. I made a sound, which I can't replicate. But everybody was watching and they thought that was hilarious because I was like, ooh, you know?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Oh,
Amazing.
we're always bringing up Robot Chicken, obviously, because I mean,
Yeah.
such, especially
What the hell's an aluminum falcon?
Yeah. Every time I come in here with the Han Solo, like the life-size Han Solo, I always have to be like, I'm gonna put my hand in him and be like, shh.
Yeah, right.
Well,
That's
cool.
really cool. That's so
I know,
cool.
right?
And Gordon and I, odd thing, Gordon and I made an auction item for them. That was Boba Fett.
Yeah.
The scene where he's with the droid who's serving the drinks in Jabba's sail barge. And he calls him Isaac. And he has the little drink. we made a replica of that and auctioned it off at one of their auctions.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So I know like Brad, right? Brad 5. I saw he had a replica of the Emperor, right? With the
It's so good.
It's so cool.
Trooper.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, you guys also worked on something really cool, and my kids were like super fans. In fact, one time I went over Gordon's house. Remember Gordon? And I was like, I'm like, look, this is him. You guys worked on the Jedi Temple challenge, right?
Yeah.
For Star Wars. Yeah. So for you guys that haven't watched it. So, well, I mean, I guess maybe
There
Gordon,
he is.
you want to describe? Yeah. There he is.
And I got 83 back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's like a kid's not Double Dare, I guess for all.
It is literally the writers for Double Dare did
Is
the
that
show.
what okay.
Yeah.
So then that totally, I got that vibe. So basically, there's teams of kids and they get challenged and they have to do like obstacle courses or like answer questions and stuff like that. So it's really cool and really engaging. And it was a series specifically on YouTube. And Ahmed Best was kind of the star, right, of the host, right?
Jedi Master Kelleran Beck.
Yeah. So then YouTube worked on this, right? Obviously, Gordon.
Yeah.
So
so they contacted us about making the droids, and it was pretty early in the game. And I don't know, McMaster, like what you thought. I figured they were going to film it in San Francisco at the Presidio. They had like the Star Wars show there, a small little set, and I figured it was going to be something like that. And in my brain, I pictured the way they described it. The droid was going to be kind of like a Vanna White character that I thought it would be like presenting something, and I pictured like the astromech over with the host. And at the time we didn't know Ahmed was going to be the host. I tell you, when we got to the sound stage, I was like, it was so much bigger than I expected. I mean, there was 2 sound stages with all this stuff. It was like
It
a
was
massive set.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I should have charged more. The,
Yeah, we both went in. I thought it was going to be like Jeopardy with a podium and the kids and
Yeah.
droids are just there. And I go in and my jaw hit the ground because there's a spaceship set and there's the Jedi Temple and there's like a forest. And I mean, these sets are enormous.
And all these obstacles. And we're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I got to make all the little kids stormtrooper gauntlets and all the lightsabers, the challenge lightsabers that the kids find. There's a puzzle version.
Yeah.
And then there's a version that looks just like it, but it's based on the Savi sabers from Galaxy's Edge. And they turn on. That was I spent so much time making the stupid little switches for those because they were so sensitive to get the saber to turn on, like some of them would work, but then to turn off like by itself. And I was like, I was down to the wire trying to get those things done. It was crazy.
You got like a 3-in-1 deal with you.
Yeah. Can you do this too?
You got the, right?
Well, and poor Gordon. I thought Gordon was going to die half the time because, we would shoot something, but there were going to be breaks, and the breaks were going to be 20 to 30 minutes. Well, it took us so long to get him out of the suit and to put him back in. It really made more sense sometimes to just leave him as is. But he's like dehydrating and starving in the suit, so I started feeding him candies.
Yeah, I was like, bring me lemon heads, and I was like, McMaster would feed me lemon heads all day because the thing is, I didn't know that like I was in the suit. I would get a break about lunchtime, and it would take like a third of the lunch to take it off, and then I'd go eat real fast, come back, and the third of the lunch to put it back on, and I had to be ready because the schedule was really tight, and so there was no bathroom breaks except that little window, and I had to modulate so I could drink just enough water to stay hydrated, but I definitely didn't want to have to pee, or definitely didn't want to end up getting diarrhea or something. That would be the worst thing ever.
Everybody wondered why the droid was leaking. What? It's an oil bath.
He's always like, "You need anything?" I was like, lemon heads, just enough sugar to keep me running. Yeah. And then the spaceship scene, they would film the forest stuff in the morning, and then they would move the spaceship, and then they would have lunch, and then we'd come back to the spaceship, and then we'd go to the big obstacle course.
Yeah.
And there was like this little period. I mean, Master can vouch. I would hit like a point about half hour before lunch where I was just like holding that costume up all day, and I was like, oh my god. And then get the break, and I'd be good.
Gordon, there was literally, I could see him do this little weave.
I sway.
Very tiny, very subtle, and I would literally step out and tell the production people, I'd say, he's got to have a break right now, and they'd be like, okay, because Gordon's like, just give him a little water. And
the hardest part was staying sorry about the sirens. Wow, that's weird. It's like the hardest part is standing still, and in those parts, Ahmed had stuff, and these kids are doing the challenges. I'm just standing there, and I'm not saying anything. I'm just basically standing there, and the stuff. Anytime I can move around, it's easier. So if I rock back and forth, it kind of relieves the weight on my legs. But there's like a little period, and then after lunch, it was good. Everything was cool, but there was this little period before lunch. I was like, this part's gonna kill me. I gotta.
So there's Mary. Mary is the voice of his character.
Yeah.
What's funny is she would study him when we go to lunch, like the first day or two. And as Gordon is speaking, Gordon's always animated. He's always moving. And I would look, and she'd be next to him, kind of like watching him and mimicking him. By the third day, the two of them were one person, and it was freaky. Finishing each other's sentences, and they both just moved in tandem. And it was
she improvised. Yeah, I told you see her that one of the camera guys was like, "Are you two married?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about?" Because guys are so in sync, and maybe it was the best compliment because she would improv stuff, and I knew if there was just enough dead air, she was going to say something, and I would just start to move my arms because I knew a word was about to come out, and she would start talking, and I would be already animated. It was awesome. She was
amazing.
So fun.
It was really amazing. By Wednesday, you guys were one person.
That's awesome.
And Ahmed is the best guy. I mean, no pun intended. It's hard to explain because you hear all the stuff about him, and it was you know, he had such a rough time after the prequels and everything. And he's not just like, just that alone is bad enough. But when you meet him and you like hang out with him for days and days, and he's just so nice, and he would check on me like, how you doing? You know, just like friendly and just such a good dude.
And he was really good with the kids. And
So
when
good.
some of the kids didn't win, and the kids are like tearing up, like as the camera stopped rolling, he would literally go over there and console them for like 10 minutes. He's such a sweet. He wanted everybody to win, you know. And he's got a huge heart and just kind.
And that's, I think that was the biggest thing. Like, also, I mean, when I saw him in that last episode of the, like, oh my God, like it was like redemption. And it's
I
this
literally got chills thinking about that again.
Yeah,
it was a surprise to us as well.
Yeah. Oh, I set up out of bed. I was like, I watched it at 3 a.m. because I was going to watch it at midnight. I fell asleep and I woke up at 3. I was like, I should watch it before morning. And then when it came on, I like hopped out of bed. I'm like, oh my God. Because I didn't hear, they say Kelleran, get him to Kelleran, but I didn't hear that when they said it. So when the elevator opened, they showed the thing and then it stands up to his face. I'm like, this is awesome. So I was so stoked for him.
Yeah, man. I think the whole Star Wars community was just roaring and cheers for that. Just, you know, he well deserved, and it's so cool that character kind of came out of your guys' project here. I mean,
I'm so stoked about that.
And he's the guy that saved Grogu. Come on, man.
I know. That's insane. I mean, that's probably the biggest like role besides Mandalorian, like biggest kind of little gap filler that we needed for, you know, in Star Wars.
I can't wait to see where that goes. That's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, please yourself. That picture is awesome. I haven't seen that one. McMaster's got a lot of photos I haven't seen yet.
I'm probably going to get arrested for posting these, but
man, that's so cool. So we got a couple other ones that I you know, we got. So this is you, Gordon.
That's not me. That is definitely not me.
That's not you?
No, that's a Power of the Force 3PO. Look at those wide shoulders. Mine has like accurate shoulders.
That's shitty.
But
is what he's basically saying.
I am, that's me driving the real.
But that's your R2. Got it.
And you can see to my left is Chris Sanders, he and I trade off in operating droids. And,
sneaking around in the background.
Yeah, we were the very first ones to go out. Here's the biggest premiere in Hollywood history, and they stick their head in our little tent and say, "Okay, guys, you're going out in 10 minutes." And we realize in 10 minutes we are going to be the first things out on this huge red carpet. Wow. It's like, don't screw this up. It's all live, millions of people watching live. Yeah, and a little. You notice I am not smiling in that picture. I am like stone cold having a stroke. But it was a blast. It was amazing.
Now here's my question. Something that a lot of people might not know, because unless they're in the kind of the R2 Builders Club and they kind of know. So during this time, it was when kind of everyone was switching over from the old school remotes to the shadow, right? Like to the little remotes, right? No, or was were you still on the big?
You're touching on is a touchy subject with me. So
is it?
I am only a fan of the commercial remotes, big bulky remotes that are more reliable, and that's all I use. That's all I'll ever use. I'm saying that now. I have nothing against the little controllers, but they are hobbyist level at best. They're not reliable, in my opinion, for this kind of work. I would never use it for a live event or a commercial.
So right there, you have the old, like the full-on Frutuba, or I don't know which type you use, but.
This particular one was a Spectrum, but I typically use Futaba, but the brand isn't really as important as that it's a rock solid transmitter that can't be interfered with. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, there you go.
I probably just angered half the droid community, but that's just my personal opinion.
No, it's okay. It's good to know those things, honestly, though, but it kind of makes sense anyways.
Yeah. How about this picture? Where are you guys at here?
Oh, Comlink.
Comlink.
Yeah, that was before Star Wars show on YouTube. James Arnold Taylor And was JC on it as well? Was James Arnold Taylor and
I think he was the video end of it.
Yeah, and it was like very much like the Star Wars show, pre-Star Wars show, and what is this, 2014 or something maybe, when we went to this thing, and they were doing some promo stuff for it, and we brought droids out, and I had my 3PO there and stuff, and then the set was cool. I love that show. They did a really good job. They'd interview cool people, and then I was under the impression they were trying to like get it to be like kind of like the official show, and then they started Star Wars show up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So it kind of like went away after that. But yeah, it was fun, and you know, James Arnold Taylor does voice for Obi-Wan for the Clone Wars and stuff, and he's super nice, and that was his studio as well. Like at the time, this studio was right next door to, he had like his own like audio recording studio in just like next, right through a doorway from this room.
Got it.
And that was interesting to me. I'd come from Florida, so I'd only been in California a little while, and I loved movie stuff and film stuff and sets and all these things. So I never was around it. Wasn't there in Tampa. So when I got out here, I was, you know, freaking out over this little like YouTube set, you know.
That's funny. Gordon,
awesome.
Gordon, I have a real quick question.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that I got a couple questions actually, that you're the C-3PO guru?
I would say C3. There's a few people, but I know quite a bit. Now I've invested so much time that I'm really nitpicky about things. So if you go on like the 3PO builder group on Facebook, I'm always like, no, don't do that.
you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that, because it's crazy that obviously through the, you know, thanks to the R2 Builders Club, there's so many R2 units that are built out there. But out of the collectors, even the collectors in our group that watch our shows, you know, there's a lot of them that do have the R2s, but coming up with a 3PO, through all the licensed companies out there, you know, and unlicensed.
Yeah.
We're just, besides, in my humble opinion, and I'm curious what you think about the Don Post 3PO, but I just, in my humble opinion, haven't seen one come out that is been able to.
There's none that have been quite right. The Don Post one was pretty good. There's some weird stuff, like the right knee has this weird separation, like they separated the teeth from the knee. Like it's the strangest thing. I'm like, why did they do that? And then like the hands are a little chunky and strange. And it looks like they got access to a real suit and molded it, but then they had to like resculpt some things, maybe just for repeatability for the process to make it easier. I'm not sure. I've looked at them up close a lot of times actually, and I've got scans of one that I've compared to scans of like, you know, copies of screen use parts to kind of see, and they're real accurate in some ways, but then there's parts of them like, how did they get off here? Like I can't figure out where, you know, like one of the legs is in the back is wider than any of the screen use ones I've ever seen. It's just on one leg. I'm like, why is it like?
I think after the first one, then it starts to lose after a while, because I know that there's a lot of them out there
that are weird.
Have copied the Don Post.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's just, there's just strange things. There's a lot of stuff. The head has always been small, a little deformed, and it's I had heard somewhere that they were doing what do they call it, like hot runs, where they would cast it real quick, and then as soon as it would cure, they'd pull it out and do another one right away. While the mold is still warm, it would cause it to kick faster, which causes more shrink and more distortion.
Yeah.
I can't verify this, but I heard it from a pretty reliable source at one point that that's how they were doing them, just to produce them quickly enough. And you know, you can tell like an early one from a later one, because later ones have a lot of deformities and are sort of like weird, and the early ones were really clear. I remember they had them at sharper image when they first came out.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I would see it, and I was like, "Oh, that is amazing." At the time, I wasn't so like, I just hadn't looked at 3PO enough, and now I've just looked at 3PO way too much, to the point where I'm like niddling like little stupid things that I just don't really matter, you know.
You're like the Jason Eaton of studio scale models, a little overkill though.
Oh yeah, he's awesome, man. His stuff is so good.
Yeah,
we could probably ask Don. What's funny, we had Don Post on the show.
Really?
Last year, and
he's hilarious.
He'll text us like funny memes randomly.
All the time. That's amazing.
And then I'm like, oh my god, like, and then like we'll be like at a family gathering for like Thanksgiving. One post just sent me like the funniest trip ever.
In the mid '90s, Gordon, I used to fly from Texas to California to go visit him in his studio where he was building all that stuff. Like when he did, the Boba Fett. I had the first licensed Boba Fett. And,
wow, that's awesome.
Things have changed quite a bit, obviously, but yeah, it's crazy. Even the plating that people, even Sideshow, that come out with stuff,
They're not as good. Don Post looks better for sure.
Yeah, they're hard to find. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Don's
really
studio was cool because he had molds everywhere.
Yeah,
like literally in the hallway and in the stairwells, there were literally molds everywhere.
I think
it's
Stan
really
Sweet's
cool to
got
know
a bunch of those molds now. Like a bunch of the I know when we went to Rancho Open, when he had a bunch of the Don Post like Star Wars molds from the deluxe edition ones that were the fiberglass like TIE fighter helmets and a couple others. He's got some of the 3PO parts there. It's pretty cool.
We actually talked about that when we had him on the show, and he told us he donated a lot of them to Sansweet over there, and we got to go in deep, especially about like the Boba Fett parts and things like that. So
I love that Boba Fett statue. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, what's
Hi, Sophia.
That's Sophia. That's hilarious.
I very rarely get starstruck, and I was like starstruck over Sophia. I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Her lips need to be painted.
Yeah. This was at Fonco, and what were we doing there? We went there for something. Was it one of the Droid build days, or was
else? And she happened to be there. We're like nerding out over it. I mean, the whole night.
Oh, I couldn't stop. And they had their hands, they had like spare hands for her and stuff out there, so it could so cool.
Badass.
When you sent over this picture, I was like, look at this sandwich of greatness right here. Hold on, let me pull this.
You look real casual there, Mr. McMaster.
Just hanging.
So this is the dumbest story ever, because this picture gets floated around, and I get all kinds of grief because everybody thinks, oh, George and I must be best friends. Here's exactly the story. I was standing I'm standing on the edge of the red carpet after we drove the R2-D2, just watching people go by. And of course, there's my boss, Dave Filoni, in the lower left-hand side. And I just actually talked to Dave, and George comes in, and he's standing on the red carpet. And to my right is Steve Sansweet, who is up in the bleachers. Steve is yelling, George, George, George. And he's looking at me like, do something. And so I go and just the minute I reach over and tap George on the shoulder. This is a photo off the live stream. On the live stream video, they say, and George Lucas is on the red carpet. They cut to a shot of me tapping George on the shoulder and whispering in his ear, basically, Steve Sansweet is trying to get your attention. He goes, where? And so, and then the video cuts to something entirely different. And my phone is blowing up, and everybody's like, oh my God. And I'm like, I don't know what had just happened. I didn't realize that the camera was on him just for that 5 seconds or whatever.
You were collaborating with him.
Yeah.
So dumb. It's so dumb. Yeah, he had, just to clear it up, George Lucas has no idea who I am.
You might be
He probably does.
You might be surprised.
Yeah.
But it's a great photo. So
it is. I mean, look at that. You got Filoni and George. Man, that's so cool.
I was getting ready to ask you, Michael, what was your, being with George Lucas, because we do have frequent industry guests that get to work. Like we had Don Bees that we talked about, that is, was with George all the time. And it's always good hearing those backstories, whether it's at the party that they had for ILM or, working with him side by side with the R2 units.
And it's funny because I've met him a handful of times for different events. And every time he's just very quiet. He's very shy, very thoughtful. I was a video editor for over 20 years. And I know that he came from an editing background. So I could bring that up and chat with him. And he'd say, oh, what were you editing on? And we talked about Edit Droid. He had one of the early nonlinear edit systems, which Ben Burt is trying to restore, one of the last of the Edit Droid units that's still in the archive. And he's just very quiet, very nice guy, but super shy.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
crazy
think he
through
really
everything
likes-
that he's done that he's so shy.
Yeah.
He's very technical. If you talk to him on a technical level, if you can keep up with him, yeah, he's very engaging.
Yeah, there's something about him. I don't know what it is. It's crazy.
So this picture, you guys, looks like you're at the Henson.
Yeah, I was driving a droid. I don't know if I can even say what droid I was driving, but it was for a show that was being shot at Henson Studios, and Gordon had made a component that was going to operate from this droid, and he wound up puppeteering it, and Brian Henson was directing both of us.
Oh,
And
awesome.
so when growing up as a kid, the Muppets were like way up here, like above everything else. So to be doing Star Wars and working with Muppets and Brian Henson directing us, it was a dream come true. That was like a pinch myself moment.
Yeah, that was same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm looking around and I'm like, all these. And what was really cool about that set was that all these people were super talented, and there were constant weird problems that I haven't really seen on a lot of sets, just because it's puppets everywhere and stuff. And it was like someone would pitch an idea and they were like, okay, go. And it wasn't headbutting. It was just like, okay, I have an idea. Okay, do that. And it was awesome. And yeah, it was super cool. And I just got to say that probably like 3/4 of the cool stuff I've been able to do is because of McMaster, because he just drags me along on all these awesome things. So that was one of those like, hey, you want to come to this? I'm like, yeah, that sounds great.
Well,
but technically I had a piece that I made for something else that they paid me great for it, but then they didn't use it. So I had it, and then I was able to rent it again for this. It was cool.
It was this weird serendipity. And I have to say this real quick. The puppeteers, of course, were amazing, but they wouldn't break character. Like when we would cut and there was a setup for the next scene, they would always stay in character. So all these
puppets are still talking.
Are still talking and interacting and telling jokes back and forth and cracking up the crew. And it was the most amazing thing I've seen in my life. And we can't really talk a lot about it. There are no photos that we can show or video from it, but it happened. And it was like
Yeah.
That's a perfect still.
Screenshot that one.
That's a perfect still.
I know, right?
You froze
That's
for a
cool
second,
that you were able to
McMaster.
share those stories.
You froze for a second. Your hands were like this.
oh no.
And it was great.
So that's cool. Yeah, no, our buddy David Woodrow, like he obviously loves Muppets, and we're always talking about that, and it's so cool because I think it just goes hand in hand. I think you grew up in the the 70s, 80s. I mean, the Muppets were just up there, like you said, Michael.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was wild. Like Brian Henson just hanging around the studio was crazy. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Some days are different. Some days are more different than others. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
So these are a couple more shots of the sets, and I mean, just like you guys were saying, like so elaborate. I mean, they're insane.
What was his name? Ryan. Oh my God, why am I blanking on his last name? The set builder that made the spaceship set. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. His stuff is awesome. I did another thing for College Humor. It was Troopers, but it was called the Troopers Rise of the Budget. Like they got this epic thing, and I met him on that because he built all the spaceship sets for that, and they were amazing. So when I saw this, Ryan Puckett, that's his last name, and he's amazing at building these sets. He just has a whole crew. They just jam this stuff out. It's so impressive.
And here's another little shot. This is probably from the forest section, right?
Yeah.
The Jedi Temple, right?
Oh yeah. You're right. You're right. That's the temple in the background.
It's got the rock in the back. Yeah.
That looks cool.
My favorite picture. That's my best. I just love this, and I hope that one day we'll see them again.
I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
I would love that. It probably will never happen, but I would love to see it.
Yeah. I'm on the same page with that.
Yeah, right. I'm like I was hoping that maybe just right there in the air, I heard some NDA just go.
No, If we knew anything like that, we wouldn't be speaking at all about it.
Yeah.
If we knew anything like that, we'd be like, well, we don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
We'd say, what's Star Wars?
What is? Yeah, exactly. This is a cool one with.
Look at Anthony.
Yeah.
And that's my 3PO head. And initially, they're like, he's coming by. Go grab your thing. I had to run all the way back to this room, and I like grabbed the head so I could get a photo. And he came over, and he really looked at it, which was cool for me. And I actually, since this last, not the celebration in London, but the one before, I got to talk to him for a few minutes because we did this thing with Anthony Carboni. And
on the stage.
That was awesome, man. Because before we came out, it was Anthony Daniels and I backstage just hanging out for a few minutes beforehand. And same thing, like I made another 3PO head, but this, my particular 3PO head is related to the one at the Sandcrawler scene. So it's like a direct lineage to that head. I was telling him, like, this is the one from the droid sales scene. Like, that's where that face is from. Yeah. And it's really specific. So he's really like taking it in. It made me feel pretty good. He was looking inside it and stuff, so.
Cool.
So I have
a pretty
the
accurate
version
3PO
that
one.
I had done way back when, and I don't have the back of the head, but he signed it at Celebration in L.A.
What a vandal.
On the inside of it, Anthony wrote, "My head in your hands."
Yeah.
Anthony Daniels.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was a con in Tennessee last year. I was going to pick up this life-size Wampa that Richard Riley built for me, and
Richard Riley.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I love
another awesome builder.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen the Jaws Bruce he's doing for us.
Yeah.
Yes. That's for you?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
Richard's he's a secret genius. That's what
Yeah.
Tom and I was like, Richard Riley, the secret genius.
Yeah, he's pretty on the down low,
Yeah.
But anyways, when I got that 3PO, I had a really nice 3PO I wanted him to sign just ahead. Some guy out of Europe made. I can't remember who it was that did it. But anyways, I wanted him to do that exactly that wouldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah, I just kind of honestly was like, you can keep that helmet. Yeah, I mean, I was just like, whoa, I don't know it, but I guess they have rules. But everyone was signing little things, and I had this head that was just not the normal, But he did take the time to sit down and looked at it. But I just wanted to get that side by side shot, but wouldn't happen.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder if it's like something in his contract that he can't do it.
Yeah, maybe so. You just don't know,
Wait, when our photo, he'd come by the Sandcrawler real early in the morning. He just sort of popped in, So we were in front of the thing, and he was there for like 45 seconds, probably a minute.
Yeah,
tops.
he's pretty fast.
Yeah, he zipped in, did some stuff, and it was gone. So
I met him one-on-one in a bathroom. That's kind of weird.
Wow.
But he was super cool, and I didn't ask for an autograph or nothing.
Yeah.
This is the first day McMaster and I hung out for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where's that?
This place
Red
is
Rock
not far
Canyon.
from my house.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah, it's Red Rock State Park in California, and it's just like that whole place is amazing. And to go there, first of all, again, at the time, I'm from Florida, so being around rocks and stuff is not a thing that I'm used to, and I was so excited. And McMaster had a freaking party that day. We had a lot of fun.
Well, they shot those that remember the original Lost in Space. The first time the Jupiter 2 crashes and it's flying in between these pinnacles, it was there. They had
that's cool.
The 4-foot miniature.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
Gordon, I'm sorry, I'm blocking your head, but are there several different screen use head sculpts that
Yep. Well, they're all related. It's like they modified. So New Hope has a specific look, and then they copied them for Empire. They changed some stuff on the way the head goes together. So it's technically they didn't resculpt it, but they probably took an existing head and did the modifications to it and remolded it. So from Empire and Jedi are basically the same, but New Hope is a little bit different. There's some things that are just I can spot it real easy, but it's subtle. It's one of those I've just stared at them so much that if you said Empire and Jedi, I couldn't tell the difference except for paint. Like if it's a screenshot, I could tell. If it was in my hand, I wouldn't know. some of them overlapped, but the New Hope ones are different. So
Yeah. Now, really quick, how many times have you've been to the archives, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, you've been you as well, Michael?
Yep.
Yeah. How was that experience? We always love to just ask, like, just you as a fan, like walking in and kind of just seeing these things.
Well, it'll
It's
mess up your
mind-blowing.
brain.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just Star Wars. It's every movie you loved in the 80s is there.
Especially Howard the Duck.
Oh yeah. They have a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Still. That's funny.
But no, they had like you've got the Ark of the Covenant, and then over here you've got E.T., and then you've got Yoda, and you've got I went crazy over all the big ships, the Mon Calamari ship, and
Oh
the
my
medical
gosh,
frigate
I need
and stuff
that.
like that are just
They got
sitting
Willow?
there. Crazy.
Yeah, well.
That's
Willow, a bunch of Indiana Jones stuff that are just like, what's weird is the thing that kind of got me is they have like a multiple big rooms. So there's one room, it's like all the models and a lot of props and stuff. And then there's like a costume side. And I went to the costume side. I've been there twice. And the second time I went, they had Marion's like white shirt with the red stuff from Indiana Jones. It's like one of those things, like, of course it's there, but my brain, there's stuff that I'm expecting to see, but that wasn't one. And it just like got me for some reason. I was like, oh my God.
yeah, that's so
like
cool.
That's
They-
Marion's. I
they-
mean, Indy's jackets are there. That's cool. But Marion's shirt, like, nobody's thinking about that. That was kind of neat,
They pulled, the archivist pulled a fast one on us. They had all of the R2D2 and 3PO parts laid out on an enormous table, and we're just pouring over them for like 20 minutes. And the archivist goes, "You guys really are droid nerds." Right in the center of the pile, she had put Slave Leia, the actual Slave Leia bikini, right in the middle. And we were just pouring, like going right past it. Like, oh, these are Kenny Baker's foot shells. And that's a 3PO arm. And
Wow.
it was unbelievable. Because then we stopped and we're like, oh, shoot. It was right there the whole time.
Yeah, and that's why we love these stories, because everybody that's gone to the archives kind of has different take, right? Certain things that they're looking at, right?
Do they have a different take, Gabe? They do have a different take. Huh. Gabe just likes to rub in people that get to go to the archives because I haven't been there. You know what I mean?
You know what I nerded out over, and the archivist was shocked. She said it was a first. You want to take any venture, any guess what I nerded out over?
I know it. I'm not going to say it.
I mean, not droid related.
Not droid related, but Star Wars.
Huh.
Was it Yoda?
No. It was the asteroids. They had like the 5 asteroids from the asteroid field.
Oh, really?
And I stopped and I freaked out over the asteroids. And she goes, "Who are you?"
That's so awesome.
You're like, where's the potatoes now? Or didn't they use like a
I
shoe
saw
and
it. I
a
wanted to
shoe?
hold it. She would not let me hold it. She said, "Absolutely not." Because I was too enthusiastic. I guess
You would have spiked it like a
wild look in
football.
my eye. She's like, "No, absolutely not." So,
Do you guys know? I'm sure y'all know Don Bees, right?
Yeah.
I
Don Bees
didn't
and
realize. What's that?
Don Bees and I look a lot alike. We joke that we're twins. Our birthdays are a day apart. We're a few years apart, but we always say that Mom likes him best. So
You got to see it. Like, look at all the R2 builder photos. Everybody does the Don Beast pose.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Man, you want to talk about some really cool stories? That guy, he was telling us about how, hey, during his lunch, hot shotting it back to the ranch and just grabbing the Boba Fett costume and how
No big deal.
It's just
like
unbelievable.
people do.
Yeah.
He's just like telling us, like this one looks kind of accurate. This one looks kind of complete. And he just started piecing the Boba Fett together. He's like, let's throw it on.
Because like Gordon with the 3PO, there's so many people out there about the accuracy on Boba Fett backpacks or whatever, and he's like, whatever, I just grabbed it out of a box and during my lunch and went back.
Throw it together, get that costume on, and head back to set. We need you here real quick.
Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I
It's
just watched.
think that's that thing too, is when you're working with those props and you're on set, your brain is just like, we just need the stuff here. it starts to become a thing. And I'm working with Tom and doing a lot of restoration work. When the first times that I got to like be around movie props, I was like, my hands were behind my back. I felt like I was in like museum, and Tom's just picking stuff up and doing things. I'm like, oh my God. And now it's like, I've done a lot of work for Tom, like work at Prop Store, you know, through Tom's Media Designs, a lot of stuff. I had like tons of props go through my hands, and you get like a little desensitized sometimes. I've had some stuff where I'm just like, and then I'm like, oh my God, what is? And then you see it go up for auction. It sells for like $80,000. You're like, oh, that was real expensive, and I just carrying it around like no big deal.
Well, you know who's like that too, and probably because of that, he's desensitized to it. Adam Savage. Whenever he's doing an unboxing of like something like from Regal Robot that we cherish, he's just like he like throws it, he's like flipping it upside down, and I'm like, oh my God, like that thing, like
yeah. He's another guy. If you could, I don't know if you've had him on here or not, but if you can get him on, you should. He's like every bit of what he seems like on TV and stuff is exactly how he is. He's like one of the best dudes. He's awesome.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, hopefully we could get him on sometime and get some stories out of him.
He's got amazing stories, and he's got so much stuff that if you point at anything, he's like, oh, and he lights up, and he's like, let me tell you about the thing, and he's just so it's infectious. Like you want to be around him. He's so cool.
That's awesome.
And I pulled this picture out.
That was like a who wore it best,
right? Yeah,
she is so fine. Damn.
McMaster babysitting me. It's got to put me in the coffin.
Well, and then down the road, a while later, I wound up working with Katy Perry. And
that's right.
Yeah, and it's a weird world, man. You just never know.
No,
she looks really good in that. Gordon, you look badass, dude, but she looks good, dude. You know what I mean?
You saying I'm not hotter? Come on now.
Hey, that's a great
Gordon,
shot of you and
off.
Michael.
I know. It's time. It's time, Gordon.
I love this picture. Oh my God. I've never seen this one either. This is amazing.
Yeah, that's a cool little selfie there. And then Gordon, I pulled some from your Instagram. So there's you with Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That was another really surreal day where I was just, and I now that picture from his page, which made me super stoked. Yeah, totally wild. I've listened to him since I was a kid. So to get to work, that the whole thing was like, hey, do you want to be in this video? And I'm like, yeah. And I didn't know who it was with at first. And then they're like, it's going to be with Ozzy Osbourne. I was like, oh my God. And I knew about it for a couple months beforehand, but it was like, I never get excited until it's happening because I've had so many things like look like they're going to happen. They go away. So I try to stay like, it's not happening until it happens. And, you know, that day was like, the best thing is like the day before my wife and I were at CVS and I was picking up a prescription or something. And I get the text with the message with the call sheet. In the call sheet, it's just only two people in the whole call sheet. It's like Ozzy Osbourne, Gordon Tarpley. And I was like, I have to frame this thing because this is like, this is so freaking crazy, you know? Yeah, he was like, he can turn on that, like the Ozzy stuff. But the day we shot, he was in, he had been going through a lot of stuff with his neck and he was in a lot of pain. So he was like, as soon as the cameras come on, he just turned it on. But the second camera stopped, he was just like, ugh. And, you know, and he was feeling rough. And I worked with him twice because I did this and then I did an Omaze thing. And between the two shoots, he had neck surgery. And when we did the Omaze thing, he was like way better off like than he was the first time. Like he was just dealing with a lot of pain and totally like super, super accommodating to make sure everything went smooth and they just everything he needed, he would just do it and do it like really great. But he was, you know, I could tell like, he was just like, oh gosh, I need to go. And but then the next time it was great. Yeah, wild day.
And then here's you with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, and this thing was like pretty crazy too because they were doing the Mount Westmore music video. You know, like 3PO wasn't in the videos or anything like that. My friend was the director, and I'm in the music videos as well as an alien. I actually have sculpted the head and stuff, but I was like, I can't put 3PO in the music videos. I'll get in trouble. I can't do any of this stuff. But my friend was like, come to like, can you bring 3PO to a set and you're just going to be like, act like the first AD and go get Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube from their trailers as 3PO. And that's the whole, I had the suit on for maybe like 20 minutes. And it was just like, go knock on the trailer doors and come get them to come to set. And that was it. And then they ended up posting the photos. I was like, oh, great. So, but I mean, it was like, it wasn't like a paid gig. It was just like, hey, go do this thing on set. And the photos came out, but not in music videos, guys. Anybody don't kill me. Oh, my lamp. Look, it's right back there.
Love it.
I love that thing's badass.
This picture is so cool too.
Thanks, man. I do one every year for Christmas. And the lamp started just as a gag. I was doing something on the sofa one time and working on a C-3PO leg. My wife walked through and she goes, that reminds me of that thing from Christmas Story. And I was like, ugh. And then I was like, I had this idea to put the R2 dome on it. And my wife just planted the seed in my brain. And then like a few months later, we go to set it up. And I didn't have the parts for a lamp. I just, used like my costume parts and an R2 dome. And I put bike lights inside of it because I didn't work. And I took this picture, put it on Facebook thinking like it's going to be funny. And then one of my friends like, hey, can I put this on? They put it on like Imgur or Reddit or something. And the next day it had like 96,000 views in like 6 hours. Like, oh, maybe this is a thing I should make for real.
That's badass, dude.
I'm surprised Lucasfilm hasn't stolen this idea from you already. Like to create like a little desktop lamp.
We talked about trying to get it licensed, and it was like not going to happen. I think it was like they were worried that it was too close to the IP for Christmas Story, and they didn't want any conflict or something. So they just were like, eh. And then I had people that worked there were like, just make them, do them in small runs, you'll be fine. And I was like, all right. So
the lighting's fantastic in that picture with the droids.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Every year I set one up, and I always like set up all the lighting all careful. It takes me like an hour to get it all like dialed so that everything reads. But that I appreciate that comment because it's
hey, that RA7. So I don't know if you guys saw this. Jason Eaton did this one off little.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I have all of his little droids.
Jason's so freaking talented. It's
He's brilliant. He
Yeah.
gave me color reference on this.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Because he had done the 1/6 scale figure.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of back and forth. And he had been talking to Lauren Peterson at ILM, who had, had good knowledge of, the originals.
I'm looking forward to meeting Lauren next month.
Oh, he's awesome. He's
a
fantastic.
super nice guy.
Yeah, I can't wait. That's my thing is the studio scale models.
Yeah.
And Gordon, I also wanted to just bring up before we move on to some of the Lucasfilm shows. You were in that Super Bowl commercial as well, right?
that was another really ccrazy day.
Hi, are you busy? Can I just ask you a quick question? Do you know how to get back to the 15? I think I took a wrong turn. Good. You have a great one. All right. Stupid zombie.
And I had the other one too, where it's your name. Just
that was unreal.
That was super cool.
That was another one where when I got that gig, I didn't know it was going to be on set with Will Ferrell. And it was, there were 22 zombies there, I think. And there were 6 of us that were hero zombies. They did more makeup and we got fitted for contacts and the teeth and everything. And a bunch of background zombies. And they put us all in the makeup and the director came in for like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds or something real quick. He looked at us and then left. And then like his assistant came back like a minute later and was like, okay, it looks like it's going to be between you and you, but probably you, and pointed back to me to do the bite. Because there's a part where I bite Will Ferrell's arm in the thing. And I saw the storyboard. So I kind of knew what was going to happen. So I saw that, like, oh, that's awesome. And it was, when they did it, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to do the cool thing, and then it snowballed. It was kind of the same thing what McMaster said earlier about I would just say kind of like outlandish stuff to people. And I said something to one of the other zombie people, and Will Ferrell laughed. It was like right when we got on set. And then I said something else, and I got Will Ferrell laugh, and I was like, okay, like this is cool. And then they started using me because they did multiple things. So the first one he showed was just me and him. That was like, they filmed that later, and they're like, okay, we need to film this thing. We need another zombie. And like, okay, you. And they just brought me back again, even though I'd already filmed a bunch of other stuff. And then the scene where I'm in the car, he says my name, which that was, I'll just play it.
Gordon, you kill me. I mean, you literally did kill me.
So
That's a cool commercial.
it was in the commercial was supposed. I don't know if you've seen Army of the Dead or not, but there's a scene in the film where Siegfried and Roy, one of the tigers, is like a zombie tiger in Vegas. And initially, it was supposed to be that zombie tiger was going to be in the truck, and it like almost like 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through the day, the director's like, hey, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get the tiger asset because it's like a big 3D thing, you know? And they're like, we just put one of the zombies back in the car to do the in. So they grabbed me again, and they've been using me for multiple things all day, and they got me again. So here I am, and this truck doesn't exist, by the way. It's like it's a physical thing. It's really there, but it's not a production truck. It's like some like show truck for, like a show. It's nothing works in it. The seatbelts don't work, and if you look real careful, the seatbelt I'm wearing is
concept vehicles.
Yeah, it's like a concept car, and it drives. So you can get it on set, but it's got some tiny little motor, so it can like move back and forth. And they didn't have any lines for that part. Like they had like something he was supposed to say, but he wasn't supposed to interact with me. And so they just like, okay, just ad lib a bunch of stuff, and they did like 20 or 30 takes of just him just saying crazy stuff to me, which is really, I can't stress enough how weird it is to be like a big fan of Will Ferrell and have him looking him in the eyes and him saying Will Ferrell stuff right to your face at you. Is
Step Brothers.
Yeah, it is.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah, but by the time he got back, it was at the end of the day when we filmed that shot. So he comes back to the truck. He goes, "Hey, Gordon." He like knew my name at that point because we'd been working together all day. And so when they were doing the scenes, like probably 4 times, he said my name along with some silly line, and I didn't think they were going to use it. And when the commercial came out and they said it was in the commercial, I was like, "Oh my god!" So freaking it is very surreal, and and it could have been super random. I'm telling you, like my whole life is full of random stuff like that, where I don't even know how half the time I'm sitting places, I'm like, I don't know how I'm here. This is super crazy. Like I can't. I'm working with this person today. This is weird, and I don't even know. I just sort of float around and then like end up places, McMaster takes me to like 3/4 of them.
I think the story, it's a much better story when it's you in the truck and not a tiger because we're outside.
Speaking of, right? So this is the Lucasfilm, right?
Yeah.
Lucasfilm headquarters. Yep.
If you go there, that's like the Blarney Stone of the lobby. You got to kiss it.
So I got scolded for this eventually. Because I would take pictures with it, and then Gordon would kiss it, and they said, "You guys got to stop posting that. People are coming in and like purposely touching it and kissing it." And they said that's got to stop. So,
well,
whoops, sorry.
Too bad.
Yeah,
Gordon will keep kissing it.
Science of Star Wars, or what was it?
The Science of Star Wars. And that was the episode on robots.
Yeah.
R2-A3. And Gordon did the paint job, most beautiful paint job of any droid we've ever done. It's amazing paint.
That was fun. And what's cool is that we were like pretty like down to the wire on that. And there's all these like scratches and dents and stuff. And I was like, don't worry, I'm just going to paint them in. Just they're not on there at all. I mean, there's painted fake shadows and highlights and stuff. And then it read really good on camera. So I was like, all right, this is I felt happy, but the color scheme, who did the color scheme? Because it was a concept with the actual paint scheme was on some concept art. And it was like, I love
it was in an episode of Rebels.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It was already pre-done. Yeah. It was a character that we brought to life.
That's right.
And then of course we got
that's an amazing picture right there.
That is our first day hanging out.
And that is one of my favorite photos because it looks like we're on the set of Star Wars.
It really does. That's fantastic.
With Wally.
Oh, people, when this was This was online before I moved to California, and the amount of people that thought this was like some real thing going on for like a Disney thing were like, what the hell is Disney doing with this? Like a Wally and Star.
Disney has already ruined Star Wars.
But that Wally has been somewhere very cool too.
That's what I was. Well, I don't know if it's the same, but I was gonna say, Michael, isn't your Wally the one they used for the Disney Plus series in real life?
Pixar in real life. Yeah, that's
Pixar
our
in real
episode. We crated up. We flew it to New York and drove it all around, and we discovered that New Yorkers are completely unfazed and in most cases annoyed by a robot walking in front of them. We had cab drivers flipping us off as we're crossing the road. It was amazing.
And while McMaster was in New York to film that, I was in New York working at Tom's shop. And so I came into the city and we walked like from like Times Square area, 39th Street or something, like 42nd or something, all the way to the south end of Manhattan and back. We didn't get on a train. We walked the Ghostbusters building. And
this was at night.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's good for you guys.
That was super fun. And it was like, like they're getting ready to film this thing. I'm like, oh, this is so neat. And I see where they're setting up. McMaster's like, oh my gosh, this was the scariest day ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was crazy.
Well, I'm telling you, like, I mean, I built my R2 around 2000 and I want to say 2010-ish, 2011. So obviously a lot of the references and everything, I was in the Builders Club going in there. And obviously I knew about Michael and your droid building. I was following a lot of stuff. I probably got some parts from you at some point, or another.
I was doing aluminum parts back then, right?
Yeah, you're doing the aluminum parts. So I'm sure there's a few that I picked up from you. But then the Wally, that was honestly, what inspired me to even build this R2 is that I went to WonderCon. I think it was around that time. It was like 2009, somewhere around there.
Well, we started making appearances around 2012.
Okay, so maybe it was so it was one of the first ones. But you guys already had one of it was probably your Wally, and maybe there was another one that was kind of already starting to get built.
Yeah, that was Mike Senna had one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that was my first like walk up to see a life-size R2 that I was just like, wait a second, like I could build this. And that was just like blew my mind. And then I asked one of you guys at the booth, and you're like, yeah, just go on astromech is it net or com, and and just start studying. And I did that for like almost a year, just researching because it's just so much, But I did it, and I did it kind of the traditional way. I got I did the Senna frame, like the wooden, putting the wood piece together.
Yeah.
I cut my styrene, like it's all hand cut.
That's awesome.
I picked up the legs from the gentleman that lives in Anaheim. I mean, he's like the wooden
Matthew
legs.
Hendricks?
Yep. I went to his house, picked up the legs. I mean, it was a lot of just sanding, bondoing.
Yeah, right.
So very traditional way of doing it.
But can it do a wheelie?
No, it can't. It's RC, but I mean, no.
Does Gordon remember my new R2, which is here? Gordon said, I want to do a wheelie, and he just jammed the stick. The new R2 has got a ton of power, and it literally, he raised the front foot off the ground and slammed it on the ground, and it got really quiet for a minute.
Yeah. Well, especially it's all aluminum, right? I mean that's.
It's wood. It's wood
wood
legs, wood frame, aluminum skins, aluminum dome.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that's a heavy.
So yes, it can do a wheelie. Can it?
Wheelie time.
That's awesome. All right. Well, cool. I'm gonna jump into some of the pictures that you sent over from the shows, because a lot of your work has been in the recent Star Wars shows, which is super cool. And they're no order whatsoever. So we're just gonna kind of go through them as they were. So this is probably one of the later episodes, right?
Yeah, that's around episode 6 of season 3.
Yeah.
It's the episode where they go to the droid bar, which is probably my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is probably the nicest looking droid. It's super clean. We built it, but the paint department there, their prop shop at Manhattan Beach, actually painted it, and it was like a mirror finish, just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's badass looking.
Yeah. I love it. And then the mouse droids, right?
So this particular mouse droid, this was the one that I built for Lucasfilm that was on the Star Wars show. They had fans name it, and they named it Cheese. So it's CH33Z.
Yeah.
And they brought it. Well, I went and picked it up, and I took it down to production so they could shoot this scene, which was episode 6, season 1, when they're in the prison barge, and the guy, Clancy, what's his last name? Help me out, Gordon.
I don't know.
Anyway, he's the guy that looks like a demon there. He's calling the mousey over, and the mouse runs away, and he shoots it. But don't worry, the real one didn't actually get shot. They did some trickery there in the editing. So somewhere between the explosion and it landing in pieces.
So Michael, you the mouse droid that we see in the Star Wars show that would be like, and it would like take off like at the beginning or like the
that was this one.
That's the one. Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. Oh, it said David said Brown. Last name Brown. Lance.
Yes.
Brown?
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah. And then this is obviously from one of the more recent one. I know this is the concept art, but
no, that's a scene.
That's the scene.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got to real quick ask you this, Michael. So everybody got, like, when I met you for the first time, I had already put together a life-size probe droid. And when I met you for the very first time, you were super classy. Through all these people that were trying to talk to you, you took a little bit of time to tell me what lenses to get for this probe droid. And so we got to see this thing at Celebration, right?
And we had shot about a month prior. So I had to go to Star Wars Celebration with this and play it, like, because people kept saying, wow, that's really neat, you should have it in the show. And I'm like, wow, that's a great idea.
So a question, what's it like taking something like that, if you could talk about it, when you go to take it to where the stage is to be shot? Are you there hanging out and working the electronics with the blue screen, or how does that work?
So for this scene, first of all, they wanted it to fly, and I had already built a mount in the back of it because I wanted to have it hung from behind if we wanted to mount it on a wall or whatever to display it. And they said, well, we want to make it fly. I said, well, I guess we'll have to mount it to a camera boom. They said, we have a camera boom. And they actually gave me one of the mounts. I made like a template from it. So I brought it home and I made a special mount that attached to the back of this one. So when we took it on set, we could immediately just lift the body up, bolt it to this camera boom. So you see it flying in. Everybody said, oh, that's animated. No, we flew it in on a camera boom.
Practical.
So there was an operator there who had it was on a dolly track, and they could fly it in. For those scenes where you're seeing it from the front, I'm operating the legs, and a woman from Legacy Effects was actually puppeteering the head, rotating it. And then we added the red eye. They wanted the red eye because it was in the concept art, and there was someone there in the art department, one of the electricians, who rigged the lights. We put a down light inside the bucket itself, so you have this, so you'd see the legs a little better because they're very dark and they kind of washed out otherwise. And then of course we added a holo projector, so they actually mounted a puck up in here that was just taped on that he could operate remotely and do all that. So there were really 4 of us involved with operating it on the day of the shoot.
And Michael, was this something that you built it for that purpose, or was it something that you're just doing and then they reached out to you?
I'd wanted one of these for 40 years. I was actually building a chopper for myself, and a guy named Dave Moog, who's in the UK, he has Droid Division, and Droid Division makes 3D models of droids.
Yeah.
And Dave came and said, "Hey, I've got this prototype probe droid. You want to try to print it full size?" And it was just an immediate yes. So I started working on it, and I had it about 2/3 of the way done. And production, some of the production people have been following my Instagram, and they said, "Oh, we'd like to use the head in Kenobi." And so there was going to be a scene where it was in the little droid workshop, and I told them how big it was, and they didn't understand, I guess. I got it on the day of, where we took it down to the prop shop, and they said, "No, this is enormous. It'll take up 2/3 of the set." So they denied it. And then there was another scene where it flies in at that checkpoint that you see out in the desert, and we couldn't use that because they wanted to store it out there in a container for 3 days. And it was about 135 degrees inside the container.
Oh.
This is all 3D printed. So
Yeah,
it would
no
have just
way.
melted.
Yeah.
So I said, "No, I can't do that." I was very disappointed. And that wound up being CG. Well, then we're working on things for the Mandalorian, and they said, "Oh, we understand the probe droid didn't get used in Kenobi." And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, we have an idea for a scene that it would be perfect for." And so then I started scrambling because they wanted the legs and everything. So I had to work all that out. I had about a month and a half to get everything actually finished.
Wow.
And,
I remember watching all the videos as it was coming together, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to redo mine. It was fantastic.
yeah, it was a mad scramble, and
Frantic sanding. I remember seeing all that stuff. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
my son Kyle, who got a shout out, Kyle McMaster, he worked hundreds of hours sanding this thing. I mean, it was crazy, and but we got it. We made it just at the 11th hour. We threw it in a truck and ran it down there. But we had 1 day to rehearse and then 1 day to shoot. Well, the day of the rehearsal, we had Rick, the director, was there, and John Favreau and a bunch of other production people. And right in the middle of this, John, because he and I are about the same age, and we grew up with Star Wars, and he asked me a little bit about the history of the probe droid, when they used the small model versus the full size. And so I started talking, and I realized everybody on set was silent, and they were just listening to me talk about the history of the probe droid. And I thought, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But it was really fun. And then, of course, the day of the shoot, they had, you can't really tell here, but they had rain machines. I mean, it rained on the probe droid for 10 hours. We're all in ponchos and the whole bit. And there was a green screen behind us, but it's a right-angled hallway. So when she's walking down the alley, I mean, all of the detail was there. They had lights up above that are robotic, controlled lights. So they had all these patterns and things. So it looked like their vehicles flying over. It was very Blade Runner-esque,
Yeah.
And then
You know what, Michael? You know what I think is
amazing.
what I think is so cool, Michael, is that like John, like the practical effects. I mean, sure, there's a lot of CG and it's a lot quicker a lot of times, but they're kind of still going back to like the studio scale models, like using the actual ship, and it's cool when we can see that stuff, that it's not completely dead. There's something more about a practical.
Dave feel just like we do, that they want as many practical things as possible.
Yeah. I'm for
Which is
it.
great.
And Michael, we were actually talking about this scene a couple weeks ago when it aired, and everyone was like, "Yeah, it's very like Blade Runner-ish," and I kind of made the connection because I remember seeing that trailer of that show that Lucas was working on that got scrapped. That was called like Underground or something like. Or do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
And
it had a number. Somebody in your podcast will recognize it. It was like, but it all took place like in these levels kind of beneath Coruscant, I think.
Yeah, and there's the beginning shot. It kind of has that same feel where it's kind of coming down. It's in between the alleys and the bright light and all that. So I was like, I wonder if that was also like a little like tipping their hat to that.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's
Cool. And then I'm a huge Disney fan, as everybody in our chat will tell you. Like, we're at Disneyland every other week, so we're there. So when I started seeing these guys pop up, the Rexes, I was just like, oh, I'm so happy they're putting them in the show.
I'll let Gordon describe this a little bit, because Gordon wound up having to redesign or rebuild almost the model.
Yeah,
from scratch, right?
this was super This was an awesome project. I feel like the pacing for me just working on it was fun because it was like stressful enough that I was like on it all the time, but it wasn't like I didn't feel like I was gonna like die, which is pretty good. But when we got this, the McMaster's like, hey, we're gonna build these droids. Like, see another thing, and McMaster's like, come do this cool thing, Gordon. And then and it was they gave us concept art. They're very vague about like wouldn't tell us just has to do this and has to do this. We didn't get color scheme, anything. And we got like a concept like rendering of one angle. And McMaster blew it up to full size so we worked off of it. Then we got a model that was like an artist model. And actually a friend of mine, I think, put it together at ILM and she had his initials on the file. I was like, oh, I think I know who did this. But it was like probably done in ZBrush or something. So it, looked right, but you couldn't just make it. I had to re-engineer the whole thing. So we had to come up with a plan on how it's going to work. So McMaster figured out how like the core motors were going to like turn everything and how that was going to work, and got that figured out. We got measurements off what we're going to use for that. And then I digitally recreated the entire thing basically, minus the upper arm, which David Ferreira did. David Ferreira worked out like the animatronics for the arm and the head. And so he did some mods, but I basically modeled everything else. And the panels open up. It's really cool. Like, I'm really proud of it, how it came together. It's so cool to see them. The one thing that bums me out is you'll notice that the cable is not twisted around the neck like it was supposed to be. McMaster went through great effort to find a cable that would like have the right amount of like tension, like the old school Rex, the cable's twisted, and it's like awesome. Yeah. And we sent it over there like that, and then something happened. And when we saw it on the show, I was like, what they do? The cable's not all like wound around the necks. I was so but anyway, no, the whole thing was really fun. A lot of digital back and forth, and excuse me, and fun figuring out how to make it work with everybody's like different talents, Yeah.
Well, and we had no idea that it was going to interact with the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So when that scene came out in Book of Boba Fett, and it's like, well, as he's getting on, they're like the little TSA agents. So as he's getting on the ship and getting off, both droids is like, wow, that's crazy.
We didn't know. That's the thing too, is we need to design two visors. So it's got this visor, and then it's got the dealer visor that is, totally different. And we were like, all right, so we know we're doing this one. I guess they're going to use it for something else as well, because we need a visor option for them. So we, did the like blast shield visor, and that green visor. We didn't know it was a green visor until like days before. And
2 days. 2 days.
Yeah, because the concept art, it was just a gray render. So we just made a solid visor, and someone was like, "It's gonna be green," and so now we got to make clear green visors right away, which is gonna be awesome. But they came out great. I'm really proud of them. And you see them in so many episodes. Every time an episode would come on, and there's our little droids, I was so stoked.
And that again, when I saw them, I didn't know you guys worked on them, right? I mean, a little bit here and there, right, from your social media stuff. But again, as a Disney fan, I was like, yes, I love this.
Well,
have you seen
during Celebration?
Oh, go ahead.
During Celebration, then we got to meet the designer of the original Star Tours Rex, as well as the guy who designed the DJ Rex that's in Galaxy's Edge. Yeah. So there were 3 generations of Rex builders, and we all got together. We all stay in touch, which is amazing.
That's cool.
And now Dave Ferreira, who did a lot of the animatronics on this, has built a DJ Rex that drives around, and it's just beautiful. It moves so great, and it's super impressive. And they used it at Star Wars Celebration, the last 2 Star Wars Celebration. They had it as part of the stage thing, and so that was the same David Ferreira that built that, did the animatronic arm and the head movement for this one.
Yep.
Man, that's cool. It sounds like there needs to be a Rex Builders Club out there. I don't know if there is, but
there kind of is, right? On Facebook. I think there's a builders group.
Go on Facebook.
Yeah.
RX Droid Builders Group.
Yeah.
You
And
know
then-
what I want, Michael? And Gordon, I want a Maximilian.
Hey, you know what's high on my list? I show you my other computer. I have like 500 screenshots of it, and I know someone who has a copy of the real head,
Oh my
and
God.
I'm
That's
Oh,
it.
look at
gonna probably be in
There
their
you go,
presence.
Michael. You see
Whoa,
Vincent.
whoa.
that? There it is.
Yeah.
So my the
What
only
was
thing holding me
that?
back on the full scale Maximilian is I just want to get the dimensions for the head, the circumference of the bottom of the head. As soon as I get that, everything else will fall into place. But I'm doing something for somebody right now. I've got a part borrowed that I got to make a copy of, and it goes back, and the person who it goes back to has a copy of the real head. So I'm
Oh.
going to say, hey, while I'm here, may I? Or I might just do a scan of it. I have a RevoPop scanner, just hook it on my phone and just for dimensions. I'll probably still end up remodeling the whole thing, but Maximilian is probably my favorite robot of all robots ever.
That's so cool, Gordon. It is mine too.
I tell people that. People are like, what if you could have any movie prop? I always think it'd be a Star Wars thing. I'm like, it'd be Maximilian. That's like my top thing that I would want to own. I love Maximilian. It terrified me as a kid. So
Well,
yeah.
since we're right here, because this was going to be at the end of the show, my question to you two. Michael, what would be your favorite robot? Do you have one? And I think I know what it is, but I want to see what's your favorite droid. Wow,
There it is.
I was wrong.
That one right there. That is my childhood dream right there. And I would say a close second, if not a tie, would be Robbie the Robot.
And you're also building one, right? You have a life-size one working on it,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, it's badass. I've been watching the
Yeah.
build process, and it's amazing.
It's kind of been put on the side burner because I've got real work to do, but I will eventually get back to it and get it done.
I figured
Hopefully this year.
thought for sure I was going to hear an R2D2, and for sure from Gordon a 3PO. I was
Right.
way wrong.
no, Maximilian has always been my favorite. I've told they used to have one hanging in Florida. If you remember, if you did the behind the scenes ride at the MGM back in the day, it was
Jeez.
hanging up there, and I would go through the ride to look at it, and I was like, oh. I want that. That would be my top. And then if we were going to other stuff, it was like Star Wars, probably RA7, always been my favorite droid, which is why there's like 20 versions here. This is
I
version
love
2.5. Gabe knows I've been working on I'm about to do version 3. So it's tied into some stuff, and I had a lot of little niddly things to do. So version 3 is coming out. And then so RA7 is my favorite Star Wars droid ever. Love RA7. TikTok from oh my god, yes, from Return to Oz, and
Yeah.
I got to do a restoration on one of those costumes.
I got
to
to
my house for like
I
a
got to
year and a
see it.
half.
Yeah, I got to see it firsthand when I
That's
went over
right.
to your house.
That's right. That you came over when it was there.
I was
It's
just like, what?
It was on Tested recently, and they show I did so much work, but they didn't say my name, and I don't know if it's because when I first did it, like basically all the restoration work I've ever done has gone through Tom. And this was supposed to be a repaint, so when I got it, it was just a paint thing. So I didn't do it through Tom, but it ended up being like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? And I ended up doing all this restoration work, and I was like, this kind of falls in weird areas. So I don't know if they didn't like talk about it because of that or whatever, because I mean, it looks the way it looks. I have replaced all the fingers, the badges, the eyes, the eyelids, the mustache, the ears, so much stuff got remade. Some of it, the original parts, like some of them existed, like the fingers, and it was basically like, it's better, let's just replace the fingers. So if something happens, you got all the real ones are like in a box somewhere, they're safe. And the same with the keys on the back. I did all replacements, even though he had some of the original parts. All the ones are exposed to replicas, so nobody can like walk off with it because they kind of come off. You know, you can just pop them off and remove.
Yeah.
It's like all you need is some weirdo to come in your place and steal these things. You know, so let's put that stuff away, and you have fake stuff on the outside, but you have all the real stuff like you displayed or something. Yeah. So I always loved 3PO since I was a kid. That 3PO, as far as Star Wars, would be like RA7 and 3PO, and I was fascinated with the costume because it's so. There's no like signs of a person. You know what I mean? It's really covers a person, and the way it moves and stuff is just so amazing. So yeah, that was it.
Does RA7, Gordon, is that like nowadays, is that like a Lumiluster kind of paint type of deal, or is this actual plating?
No. Some of them, if I do another one, I'll probably spray chrome it like I did with 3PO. But it's almost like too shiny. Like if you're filming it, it's too shiny. They have to deaden it and do all this stuff. So this is literally just silver cheap spray paint, and I did it, and I was like, man, this looks like fun because it's gonna weather and stuff. So it's like this looks fine. And I mean, I can do full on spray chrome. I got like that little chromey. Where is it? Right there.
Yeah.
I can do chrome at like my 3PO. I did all that paint myself. It's like shiny, reflective metal, so I can do it. But I don't know. I'm on the fence. Like I feel like he's gonna get dirty. I didn't know I was gonna paint him. I kind of was like, maybe I should do a different color scheme or whatever. So I was like,
yeah,
maybe eventually. Plus, again, this is version 2.5. I'm like not mirrored to my camera, so when I do this, I'm ridiculous.
No, you're good.
2.5 version 3 is coming up soon. Almost the same. Probably most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but I see it and I can't unsee it. When I see a problem, I gotta like it bothers me forever. So same with 3PO. Like my 3PO is morphed. If you look at old pictures to now, it's like so much has changed on it. And because as soon as I see something wrong, I'm like, I hate it. I don't want to wear that suit anymore. So dumb.
Man, me and you need to stay in touch though when it comes to Maximilian, because I don't know if you guys know, I post a lot, but I'm opening up called the Dark Side Brick Oven Pizza Company, and it's a big, it's going to have all type of 70s, 80s nostalgia in there.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, a lot of the stuff from Riley, that's
really. Is that what the Jaws is going for?
Yeah, it's going to be busting through a classic Jaws poster that's 12 foot by 8 foot.
Wow,
it's pretty classic. We've got the life size whole back end of a real DeLorean. Very accurate prop replica parts on it, and it's crashed in the bar. Every 20 minutes, smoke's going to be coming out of it, and
that's amazing.
It's really cool.
He's going to have a Wampa pulling Luke.
He's dragging Luke.
I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures.
Is that another Riley creation?
Jordan, you haven't seen the Wampa? It's amazing, dude.
I might have. I know he's done like a couple big full scale things. So that's
something. That's something I believe that if Lucas would have saw that, that's what we have there that's going to be on display is what Lucas had pictured in his mind,
Yeah.
So
that weird one, like the cutout scenes that you see with the
that big old wonky 10-footer.
Yeah.
They shot so many scenes for Empire for that they had to delete,
Yeah. You know what? I was talking to Tom about this the other day, how Stuart Freeborn's amazing. He makes all this amazing stuff, but the Wampas just didn't look great, except for like the one that the puppet one that they have for the reveal shot, that comes up into the sky. It's like a little guy. Oh my god, yeah, that's amazing.
Well, that's Michael's.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you should see the dragging the Luke part. It's just absolutely. But yeah, so he's going to be suspended 12 feet in the air in the main dining area, overlooking the patrons.
That's so cool.
Isn't that neat?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Where is this place at? It's in Texas?
Yeah, it's going to be in a town of, it's called Bernie, Texas.
Okay.
No, we're going to have a big shindig grand opening, and all you guys are going to be invited. There's people from literally all over the world that are coming. We're going to have some celebrities. We're going to have some Back to the Future cast there, and
I like pizza.
Yeah,
I like pizza too.
Yeah, it's wood-fired brick oven pizza, so it's going to be real simple menu, good food, and just it's just going to take you back to the good old days,
Wow.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Michael's been taking us on a ride. So he kind of came up with the concept of it here on the show while we were talking, and it's just been like building and building and building, and it's so cool because Michael's been keeping us updated on like this project and this project, and every single time like Michael just keeps on like outdoing himself. He's like, yeah, now it's gonna be the half part of the DeLorean on the wall, and then he does it, and then he's like, now there's gonna be like,
oh my god,
size, Jaws, and like
unreal,
amazing.
You guys, have you had Rich Riley on yet?
You know what? He won't come on. So so here's the front of the restaurant that's under.
Oh wow, how big? How tall is that?
It's 22-foot ceilings.
Wow,
it'll seat about 130 inside and outside. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a $2 million investment. So I hope y'all can come out and have some pizza.
Wow.
But yeah, so you know what? So Richard, me and him talk almost daily. He's one of my closest friends, and we're going to pick up Jaws this next month. He's doing some Raiders stuff too that we're going to surprise everybody with. But it's always, I mean, me and him we just are nonstop laughing and sharing stuff back and forth.
He's
But he
amazing.
won't. He's
man.
like Mike
Best.
Salzo. I don't know if you know Salzo. He's a great model builder.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, he works close with Jason Eaton. They do
Okay.
a lot of stuff. He did my 8-foot Star Destroyer studio scale.
Wow.
It's fantastic. But anyway, so he's another guy that just won't come on the show. They're just like,
Why not? You just don't like it.
they just don't like the front. Like Richard is just not a front guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
And he knows you guys well, you know, but he just.
Yeah, I love Richard. I've like spent a lot of time with him at Tom's shop, you know, in New York, and just
Yep.
same thing, laughing. He's always saying funny stuff, and he always says complete like the genius things. Like he's like, you know, what's cool, and it's like whatever he says is like, I'm like, that's $1 million idea, just all day long. Like,
Speaking
dude.
of $1 million, that's the problem, Gordon. He always says, "Hey, you know what would be cool?" You know, and I'm like, "Oh no," because he came up because when we started talking about the Wampa, you know, somebody had created this Wampa statue dragon part of a tauntaun, and we know that he did a life-size tauntaun. He goes, "How about if he's dragging Luke?" And I'm like, "Oh shit!" So we that's what we did, and it's, I mean, legit. The Luke, it's just it's crazy.
Oh my god!
I've got him lying dead over here on the ground here. So.
Oh wow!
We're gonna bloody up
Oh,
his
wow.
face some more, but
Oh, that's amazing.
Amazing.
yeah, Cloth Ears did the outfit. They do really good. Anyway, so yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that's so awesome.
yeah. So,
I
but
know.
anyways,
Well, speaking of restaurants, really quick, and speaking of cantinas, let me bring up a picture.
Ooh, those look familiar.
Yeah.
yeah, that's badass.
So, yeah. So, okay. So, tell us about this. Did you work on the EVD?
So those was funny because Tom called me. He's like, "Hey, Lucasfilm needs 8 of these things, you know, my like the canisters."
Yeah.
And I make them. I've got a real Rolls-Royce Derwent jet engine. They call it a flame tube, but it's technically the combustor liner because there's like an outer shell and then an inner piece. It's the inner part. I've got a real one. I molded it and I made castings for the Cantina bar here in LA, in Hollywood. So I had the mold and I'd sell them from time to time. And Tom's like, "Hey, Lucasfilm needs 8 of these for something." And I didn't know what was going on. This is like really early before there was like little like whispers about a show, but like nobody's really talking about, we didn't know it was Mandalorian or anything like that. It's just going to be like some Star Wars series. And they were going to have me make them. And I made all the things and I was like, "Okay, what do I do?" And they're like, "Oh, can you ship them to this address?" I'm like, "Manhattan Beach." And I was like, "Man, just drive them there. It's like taking me less time to like just drive them over than to like wrap them all up and box them and shit. Like, just drive them." And they're like, "Oh, no." It's like, "No, we'll send somebody to you. So like, what's your address?" So they send somebody and this girl comes to pick them up from my house. And it was like, I'm like, so, and I didn't think of the show until like probably 10 minutes before she got there. I thought maybe it's for a commercial or for a convention thing. I didn't know what it was, you know? And I was like, "Is this for like that new show they're working on?" And she was like, it was like Disney was watching her. She goes, she gave me like the tiniest little nod. And I was like, "All right, cool." And then they were gone. And that was it. And then when the show came out and I saw them, I was like, "Yeah, they're on the freaking Mandalorian." And I've seen them pop up from places. And oh my gosh, what's the guy's name? I follow him on Facebook. We've talked a few times, but he's the guy that did this EV99. So I did EV99s for Galaxy's Edge. And when I saw this, I was like, "Man, I wonder if they used one of the ones for my molds, you know, for this." But then there was like a little differences in it. And then turned out some company made them, the EV99s. And the same guy that worked on EV99 did the IG-11. And he told me that they used one of my canisters for reference. I guess it's still 3D, like all 3D done. But I don't know. I like to think that's a little bit related here to this awesome character. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, those were there. That's how it showed up. I didn't paint them. They just gave them the raw castings, and then they disappeared from my house. And like a year later, I see them on the show, and I was like, "Yeah, there they are."
That's exciting for me because I have one of your canisters there on the very top. So
yeah,
that's
yours got a nice paint job too. Because half the time, like I either sell them raw or if I paint them, it's like, you know, I do them like all nice and shiny and stuff. So I don't know how they painted the ones for the show. They seem to like look metallic enough, but
Yeah.
they look weathered, you know. And if you see like the original Cantina bar, they're real shiny. Like they took real ones and polished them or something. They're very reflective.
Yeah.
So, but
And-
yeah, stoked on those.
And Gordon, these same canisters, they can be found in other places, right?
Yeah, Galaxy's Edge. That's I have some up on. I don't know what you guys can see here, but there's got a bunch of these things kicking around in my house. The
Don't be saying that on the show.
well, you never know. But yeah, there's same ones from Galaxy's Edge, and then the Cantina in Hollywood, and now Mandalorian, which is pretty neat. I made a lot of castings out of that mold. So when I bought that part, it was kind of not cheap. It actually was a good deal for what it was, but I was like, I splurged and got it. And then I paid, the mold that I made was really expensive. I made it really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's paid off because it hasn't worn out. And I made tons and tons of pieces out of it. So yeah, it's been good.
Hey, the Cantina in Hollywood, is it the one on Hollywood Boulevard?
Yeah. That's actually like when I got him, that's JC that runs the Cantina knew that I wanted to make them. I talked to him. I was like, I got a real one. I want to cast him. And then when he's going to do the bar, he's like, hey, you think you could do those? And I was like, sure. I need this much money to get like the basic supplies. And he basically funded the supplies. And then I sold him like super cheap per piece, but it was like, he paid for all the materials. Cause I paid a lot for the mold. I did like very nice, you know, like I put way more work into that mold than I've done for like almost any other mold. And it's, I think I'm like 96 castings in right now. And it's still like works great. So
yeah, because you could even see the like, can't you even still see like the little serial number, or like the writing?
That's the thing is there's like when the mechanics. So these parts, if you're not aware, they're from a plane from the 40s, from the early 40s. And so anytime they were serviced, they would take a little etching tool and go, and you know they would put a date and the mechanic like sign off on the part. So there's little like, you know, you can see where they did service checks on the parts. There's little sign and they're on all of them. So they're, you know, the detail, all the little mechanics that worked on these pieces, they've left their little initials and a little date and, you know, service dates and stuff, but they're all like from the 40s. It's crazy. So they're all in all the castings, but they're real small. You can barely see them. You can stand them off in like 2 seconds if you don't like them. But I think it's neat that they're there.
It is.
That's fantastic.
That's very cool.
Yay! Look at our droid.
Yeah.
So a thing to look at too that a lot of people don't notice is that the arms. Look at the second arm down where it's attached compared to all the other Rex droids. The arm is on that big middle, like that big middle piece.
Yeah.
And then ours has had to fit in that little thin slot.
But it looks like it works that way though. That's how it works because it rotates in there.
Yeah.
Like it's a real mechanical piece.
It worked great. On the other one, the big thing turns. So like if the Rex that's on the ride, it's like the middle piece also turns and the top piece turns and the bottom piece turns. And this one, we were like, how are we going to fit the motor in this thing? Because the motors are like inside that run the pieces and was real tricky. We had a little back and forth. I'm like, how is this going to work?
Like building a boat in a bottle.
Yeah, in the tight tolerances. And what's funny is all the tubing on there, I measured it digitally. And then I went in my backyard and I had all this metal tubing. And I'm like, it's just saved from everything. And I was like, I found the pieces that were really close to the sizes. And I was like, this is what I'm using. And I just cut out this. We're talking like, I don't know, curtain rods and like little weird stuff that I just had like, 10 feet of tube. I'm like, okay, this will work for this part, and this is going to work for this other part. So like all the tube pieces were just junk that was in my backyard.
Funny.
And it all came together at the 11th hour, literally.
Yeah. Oh yeah. it was
So
pretty frantic.
So total, are there 2 of them, or do you guys just do 1? 3. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one's a totally different one than the one we just saw, right?
It might be the same one. They repainted them, so.
Okay.
Yeah, the card dealing droids were also the TSA droids.
No. And then we saw this guy, but it's a little.
You can see a lot better that paint scheme. That's badass.
Now that RA7 you guys didn't work on.
Oh God, no.
No.
Do you remember Golden Armor from back in the day?
Yes.
That's
Chris,
a copy of a golden armor head, and it's enormous. I did an overlay. There's this really great photo of the original RA7 from New Hope with Darth Vader in the background. You know which one I'm talking about? It's all painted black.
Yep.
I took that photo and overlaid this one on it so you could just see the enormity of the head. It's huge, and it's a copy of that golden armor, which is kind of like using Armor FX stormtroopers or something. It's just
Right.
a big no. Don't do that. But it's there, and it's all 3PO parts. It's not RA7 legs or arms or back. It's just I don't know.
I was curious about that. So RA7 neck down is different than 3PO.
It's totally different. Like it looks like the core shapes of the legs, the basic shapes are the same, but there's no piping detail on the legs. RA7, no piping detail on the arms. The back is totally different from 3PO. I did a video when Rogue One came out. They showed an RA7 and I was like all excited. And then I did a video like on my YouTube years ago, but like nitpicking everything because it was pretty good. It's like it's better than this. It's proportionally looks correct, you know, but it has a 3PO back, and I was like, you guys, there's reference for the real back. For the
You're getting all mad. That's funny.
Yeah, there's like I understand if there's no reference and you didn't know, but like when you could go get reference from the archives and just make it, you're going through all that trouble just to make the back, you know, like don't use a 3PO back, but And if you look at the armpit, like see that little loop hanging down under that armpit right there? Oh my God. Just kill me now, please.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Couldn't be more lazy.
If you couldn't tell, we're a little nitpicky about details.
Right.
Yeah.
That.
Hey, there he is.
This is another moment where I stood up and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'll let McMaster tell it because this is awesome.
Yes, please.
No, I think that this season was the R5 D4 gets this arc.
Yeah.
He goes from kind of obscurity to hero.
Yeah.
And he's not necessarily, he's a reluctant hero, most definitely. But we were really proud of this. I took the Hero R5, I had modified it for production. It's the one that has the taser in it. And we redid the foot drive so it could drive off-road. And then after that, they said, well, we want to make, Dave and John want a practical 232 mechanism.
Ooh.
And I was very upfront with them saying, well, I think we can make it, but I'm not 100% sure. And I showed them some videos of a guy named Kevin Holm who had already made a 232 mechanism. I said, we're going to start with that and build upon it. And it was a huge team effort because we had James Van Reenen from Com8 provided the frames and the legs. It's all aluminum, you know, top to bottom, other than the dome. The dome's fiberglass. But we had about 10 weeks to build it. And we were right up
no
until
big deal.
the last minute programming it and timing, adjusting the balancing. And I was really proud with the final version. And you see it on screen doing the 232.
That transition was so good. When I saw it, I was like, oh.
Badass.
Dude,
I was excited too. Hey, Michael, can you tell to some of the viewers that don't understand what a 232 is? Can you explain that?
So it's mechanically being able to go from 2-leg to 3-leg and back. So it could be drivable to a certain degree in 2-leg mode, although it's kind of precarious, very top heavy. But yeah, we could drop that center leg out and stand in 3-leg mode and immediately drive around, and then we could stop and we go back to 2-leg mode. And this was the first time that they had a droid that could do it practically.
I was going to say
or a one-time only effect.
And the prequels, that was all CG.
Well, in the prequels, I don't know. You have to ask Don Bees. They may have had something that was puppeteered. But yeah, for the most part, like when outside of Queen Amidala's ship and all that, it's definitely CG. There were a lot of CG elements. But for A New Hope, when you see R2 do it, they were using pneumatics and locks and things. And typically, there's a scene in the Death Star where it goes from 2-leg to 3-leg and starts to roll forward. And they took it right to the last frame because the very next frame, the legs splay and it falls apart. So we were very proud to make this and make it work. And like I said, there was a a ton of people in the R2 Builders group that provided. Chris Lee provided programming. Kevin Holm provided the mechanism. Without his mechanism, we couldn't have done it. Plain and simple. But everybody came together and we worked our tails off. And there were days on set where I think they probably cycled it 30 times.
Yeah.
And I'm holding my breath, every time they hit the switch. But it worked. It worked.
So Michael, did you get a private screening, or was it just like me and Gabe and our viewers? You sat down and you got to see it for the first time.
I knew what episode it would be. I knew it was going to be episode 7, and only because I knew it was going to be episode 7 or 8, because Rick was the director for those episodes. He directed episode 1, 7, and 8, and so I knew it had to be 7 or 8. And so as soon as I saw R5 get in the Jedi the N1, I was like, okay, here we go. So.
Yeah.
I wonder if Hot Toys is going to release a Mandalorian version of R5. Have you thought about that?
So.
Wow.
I'd buy it.
Yeah, Jason Eaton did the paint patterns for the first one for Sideshow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jason is ever present, by the way.
Yeah.
In all these things.
Oh yeah.
Brilliant artist.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. And I mean, and again, from studying all the the R2s and all that stuff. I mean, just to think about that success, right? For it kind of working, right? Because obviously the faceplant thing is just, I mean, it just could happen anytime, right? With that mechanism.
We have videos here in the shop when we first tested it, and we actually had it hanging on cables on a winch, and we tested it, and the very first time it face planted, or it would have if we didn't have it suspended. And
God, I bet that's nervous on the set.
We were afraid we'd never overcome that, but the guy who built it, I said, we talked to Kevin a lot, and he said, well, you need to adjust this or adjust that, or the timing should be a certain way coming down. It's different going up. And once we had that, our heads wrapped around it. We took a crash course in this.
Literally.
And,
That's fantastic, though.
No time to do it, but it like I said, at the very end, it paid off. So
Yeah.
hopefully we see more R5 next season. I hope.
Yeah.
Where is R5 right now?
You mean physically?
Yes.
Or in canon?
Yeah.
R5. I mean, in the show, we don't know where he is after.
No, physically.
After the mouse droids, we see him fly away, and we never see him after that. So I
No.
really don't know where he is story-wise, but he does live in a warehouse in.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Beach.
That's what I wanted to know.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, and that's so cool. And R5 just again, what they did with him in the Mandalorian is just great. I mean, you really
kind of redeemed the droid, really.
Right, and that's if you really think about like the whole canon of it. It's like without R5, there would be no Star Wars but him breaking down,
right?
R2 wouldn't have gone with 3PO with Luke and movie over. It's like those memes where it's like directed by George Lucas.
Yeah. It just works and it's done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, really, he really is the hero of the whole thing because he broke down.
I loved that, for the last episode, we knew that, we built the mouse droids and we knew what they were going to do. And I could not wait for that scene. And then for it to be literally nothing else in the scene. It's the R5 and the mouse droids all alone. So everything we built was interacting for this. And I think it's a hilarious scene. And there's a bunch of memes out there already. A lot of variations, which are absolutely hilarious.
Let me see if I can. Let me bring that up because I want to show people that scene. I'm sure everybody remembers that scene. Actually, I might be able to pull it up on Disney Plus real quick. Hold on. Because that was such a great scene. Yeah,
it was hysterical. I love how the first mouse droid kind of comes out and peeks and like, what's going on here? And he leaves, and you think that's the end of the story.
And then come back to like 3
a whole
of them.
herd of them come out. Like we've never seen, mouse droids. People are like, what do they do? Like data transfer or whatever on the Death Star. But apparently they're like also little enforcement droids.
Yeah, that's funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if I can manage because we got to see that scene. I mean, we can't end the show without watching that scene with you guys here, huh? I mean,
That's funny.
Well,
but yeah,
so
I
then
mean,
another fun fact about that. So I didn't know that it was going to fly. So they had the CG version that had the rocket boosters, and that was done by Billy Brooks, who is a friend of Gordon and mine.
Really? I didn't know Billy did that.
Billy did the original rocket boosters in the prequels for R2D2.
Oh, very
So Billy came full circle and came back to do that. And he called me, said, "So what'd you think of the rockets?" And I'm like, "Are you serious?" So we basically had a scene together. And
I didn't know
just loved
Billy
it.
was doing that. That's amazing.
Yeah, no. And
Okay,
maybe
I
I may have just outed him. I may be in trouble for that. But no, I just thought that that really is pretty amazing that he came back for that. And once again, all these friends were all these interactions. It's a weird world, the Star Wars universe.
all right.
So what do you think about it, Michael, about these droids that have rocket boosters and they fly? Do you like that idea that they fly? Like when you saw it in the prequels, were you like me and thought, what the hell?
I was not enthusiastic about that aspect.
That was ridiculous. I mean, R2D2 and the Jawas and Star Wars and when they had them flying, I was like, what the Mary Poppins just came in.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I hated that part.
Yeah, it is not our world. It was George's world. So that was what he wanted.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
100%.
All right, so I found the scene. I gotta play it because here we go.
So that was the hero droid with the taser. So you actually see both R5s in this one.
Panting.
R5. Good job, buddy.
He's so proud of himself.
Oh, there we go. I love that.
And I should note that is my personal droid going over the edge.
Is it?
We built the 5 droids, and we gave them names, and everybody got attached to them. And they were going to have one drop over the edge. But they didn't want to damage the hero mouse droids.
Yeah.
They said, "Can you provide another one really quick?" And all I had sitting on my workbench was my personal mouse droid. Which
What happened to it? What happened to it?
Oh, it just
It just went over.
Yeah, but when it
I'm
went
sure
over,
it's fine. I'm sure it's
Okay.
fine for those that are worried.
I want to know if there was like a twist.
And by the way, my daughter named my droid, since we built Cheese, she named ours Cheddar. So PH3DR. So that was Cheddar doing his little.
You'll never get him back.
That video, by the way.
I know, right? Wait, what video?
No, what you just played. Thank you for playing.
Oh yeah, no, of
That
course.
just put it all in perspective. How that's just
Yeah.
incredible.
And again, I mean that really is kind of like right. I mean, Michael, would you consider that kind of like your peak Star Wars moment, or what's
that has to rank up there. I love that scene, but I especially love seeing the probe droid because it's just such a sinister looking thing, and it's so well shot.
Yeah, it was
framed.
badass.
It's just gorgeous, and it was a reveal for a character, that people were like, "Are we going to see him? Aren't we going to see him?" And so it was a neat scene overall. But both of them were fun.
Yeah. Well, man, that's awesome. I mean, again, being able to see your work on there, and it just, I mean, can't get any better than that. That's so cool. Well, guys, we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes. We want to be respectful of your.
That's it.
That's it.
Gordon's ready to go 4 hours.
Gordon,
I'm not wearing any pants.
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Hey, Gordon, can you go show us that?
but yeah, we want to obviously thank you guys so much for jumping on and hanging out with us, and sharing.
Thanks for having us. This is awesome.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, no, any time. I mean, like I said, I know you guys are busy, and really appreciate you taking time on your Saturday.
We got to coax Richard Riley out of witness protection and get him on.
Yeah,
100%.
Have you had Tom on
You hear
yet?
that, Richard?
Oh, we've had Tom on
Coming
100
for you.
times.
Yeah, we've had Tom a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever we
Tom
don't have
to
anything
drag-
going, we just call Tom.
Tom might be able to drag Richard on. If you said Richard coming on with Tom.
Well, we had one show here. Think about this show. It was Tom. It was Kirk Thatcher.
Oh,
And-
that's awesome.
And Tony McVeigh. But Tony McVeigh couldn't get on his iPad, so he just phoned in.
Yeah, so we had,
And I had to hold my phone up against the microphone for him to be able to speak to it. But it was an amazing.
it worked out good.
That's
though.
amazing.
Yeah, because again, I mean, imagine just having. I mean, because Tom, Tom's a character too. He likes. He likes.
He's good on the camera.
Man, he loves to talk. Man, we can't get a word in.
But try to compete with Kurt. No way.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Kurt, that's like two.
Yeah.
That'd probably be real fun.
Yeah. Oh, it was a great show. We were talking actually about the Salacious. It was for the release of the Salacious Crumb. So
Wow.
yeah. Well, I mean, guys, again, appreciate you jumping on. This has been super fun. I know there's already, comments, people are loving it. Great show, So everyone loved that. And again,
Thanks, guys.
We appreciate everything you guys do, and thank you so much.
Anytime. If you want us on again, I'm sure McMaster will go on.
Don't get us tempted. We'll have
we could give you a whole different batch of stuff to talk about. So we could give you 4 more hours easy. So
we might have to have one specifically on just R2s and R2 building. I'm not joking. That might be a good one. And then C-3POs, obviously. But guys, okay, can we just drop really quick? Where can people find you guys? What if they want to follow you, Michael? Yeah.
I'm on Instagram, McMaster_robots.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's it.
I am under Gordon Tarpley. One word, no spaces, real easy to find. I would have put it in my thing, but instead I put exclamation points because I thought that was going to be funny. And then I would have put it there. But yeah, at Gordon Tarpley pretty much everywhere. So
I'll link it in the description right after this. So anyone watching,
you can see all the weird stuff I do every day.
Somebody was saying to put on your alien teeth. Who was it? Brad, I think, was like.
Oh man, if I would have thought I had my teeth right, I have a lot of some crazy teeth here.
I've got some of Gordon's drawings in my workshop. Probably most I can't show. Yeah, he immediately knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. They're good. It's like bathroom art. You know what I mean? The stuff you find in a bathroom stall.
Oh, yeah, that's hilarious.
Like Superbad, or what was it? Superbad?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's the credits to Superbad, and it's all over my shop. He hides them.
This is the only view he can have his camera without seeing them.
That I get.
Oh,
that's a whole other show, people. Like after hours.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, again, thank you again so much for jumping on. It's been super
thanks
fun.
for having us.
Yeah.
It's such an honor. Michael, any last words, Michael?
Well, it's well known. You guys are super great artists, and thank you guys so much for the behind the scenes stories. I love those behind the scenes stories, and just seeing that this stuff was just on Disney right now, and what an honor to have you guys on Collection Wars and being able to share these really kick-ass stories. But you guys are awesome. It's awesome to finally be able to call you guys friends. So thank you guys so much. You too, Gordon.
Thank
I
you.
remember sitting next to you at the panel when we had the Collection Wars panel at the celebration. That was good. That was funny.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, man. But thank you, Michael. I'm glad that you and Gordon were able to hop on and hang out with
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. How long have I been reaching out to you, man? I'm like, hey, I'm going to Europe now.
I know you were thinking it was never going to happen, and
I
one day I
was.
say sure, and I think you had a heart attack.
Yeah, man, you're
Well,
awesome.
I saw Michael at WonderCon a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "Hey, so by the way, my buddy Michael Haas, he's you guys been chatting," and Michael's like, "Oh yeah, now I know." Yeah,
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
that guy.
It was
yeah.
that probe
We're
droid
gonna
that
have to
brought
be
me
there right there at the booth too. So.
Yeah, it was that damn probe droid that brought me to him. I was like, wait a minute, who's doing that probe droid? I got one. I need to find. Yeah, I mean, I'm because of you though. It's completely disassembled now. It was all together. I'm gonna do it right now. I definitely want to get this thing done.
Oh man, big shout out to Droid Division because
Yeah.
he spent the extra hours to get it right, and it's
Yes.
really impressive. Yeah,
Hands
Dave
down.
Really cool. I'm
And
working
that
on
Robbie
one
the
of his-
robot's badass too, by the way.
Which one?
The Robbie the robot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When is that going to be done?
That's a whole other show. We could do a show just on Robbie.
Yeah.
Well, cool guys. Everybody, thank you again for watching, and we'll
You
see
guys
you
hang tight real quick.
Yeah, hang tight.